What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Game Time Discussions. Happy to see Dustin in the chat. Howdy to you. Um, big week, week 14, final week of fantasy for most people. So we'll be talking about.
You got to rub it in like that.
Sorry. Half most of the time your leagues are about halfway.
Mm.
So we have 6 and 6 in our league because we play 12. But so 6 people will not have a chance to play for the championship game, but it's a big week for a lot of teams. So lots of questions. Hopefully, we'll come in asking about sick questions. We're ready to answer anything you have to ask, and yeah, it's going to be an awesome week.
Right. And we also are coming off a very fun college football championship weekend. So obviously, the college football playoff is going to be set on Tuesday,
Yes.
all the way till Tuesday. That's stupid. That's got to wait that
Well,
long.
no, I think they
Or is it going to be
I
this
think
morning?
it's 11 o'clock
Oh,
today.
so we
If
might,
I correct, if I'm
well,
correct,
right,
Dustin, check
probably
me
right
on
at
that.
the end of our stream.
Yeah, Dustin,
But
check me on that to make sure.
But
But
yeah, did anything surprise you yesterday? Or I know Dusty blew us out of the water with our
yeah, Dustin killed the
head-to-head
picks,
picks. But
man.
yeah, if you tailed him at all, you won a lot of money in straight picks yesterday. But um,
He's the best mid-major picker I've ever seen in my life. Like, like he killed the mid-major games. That's really where he made all his money. But
and then also Lone Wolf in Georgia.
yeah, Georgia. He lone wolfed Georgia, Marshall,
Hmm.
the all these teams that I was
Yeah,
like, okay, cool. Like, all right.
worked out.
But yeah, so yesterday I guess the biggest thing, and we talked about this a little bit before the show, being you
Deep in
being
my
a
bag.
huh?
He was deep in my bag, or his bag
Oh
yesterday
yes,
is what
yes.
he claims.
No, you being a Texas fan though, that game looked like Texas should have been up by 20, is what I was trying to kind of saying earlier. It's like we were watching them and they were by far the better team, and they found a way to lose. And
Well,
it was a lot of different things. Obviously, like penalties were terrible. We can talk about that. You know, everybody says, oh, it needs to be called on both sides, but they were blatant penalties that
yeah,
Texas was
there was.
actually being called
I
for
didn't see one
correctly.
penalty that was like, "This is awful,"
Yeah, that was a
except
bad
for
call.
except for the targeting that was picked up,
Picked up, yeah,
and
changed.
it didn't matter because it was going to be at the 3 or the 2 yard line,
Yeah.
so didn't matter. But yeah, I was telling you this before we went live that just usually if you're the better team and you're not winning by the amount that you should be, based on how you've played, it usually comes back to bite you, and that's how a lot of teams that it's just like, how did you win this game? And it's just because you let teams hang around. You
Grind
kick
it
field
out.
goals when you should be scoring touchdowns,
Yeah,
and yeah, it was a frustrating game for sure.
they sucked from 25 in, and then Burt missed two field goals, but both of them got called off prior to kicking them. So
Right.
one of them was a 5 yard penalty, false start, I believe, or something. He
Hmm.
moved it back after he made it, missed it on the next kick, and so it was just really tough to watch. It was a game where, and I'm not even a Texas fan, but if I'm a Texas fan, I'm really pissed off about that game. Like I am
Right.
really annoyed with how it was coached and those types of things that just
But based on the playoff, I think a lot of casual or not casual fans, but just non committee fans are going to be happy knowing that Bama is probably going to be left out because two teams
yeah,
did jump them. Obviously, Clemson beating SMU, which was not projected, and then obviously Arizona State or somebody in the Big 12 had to.
right.
So essentially, they were ranked 11 last week, and having two teams jump, they're probably not. It's basically comes down to them and SMU, and I think SMU losing by 3. I think they're going to be held in. I think the biggest debates in terms of seeding are going to be, does Texas fall? Basically, them, Penn State, and Ohio State. How do they rank those three teams?
Right.
And then SMU, how far do they fall? I saw a bunch of projections that had Clemson behind them, and it's just like Clemson just won
Yes.
against them. How do you rank them behind them? And then what was the third one?
Uh,
Um,
well, I was gonna actually, I wanted to point out, this SMU situation though, because with Alabama losing 3 games, they did lose to Oklahoma 24-3, and you
yeah,
can't have that on your resume.
very bad losses.
I agree with Dustin that SMU deserves to be the 12 seed. There's a lot of different things that are in running around, but I will say also at the top, does Arizona State jump Boise State? I saw Nick Saban say that Arizona State deserved to be above Boise State because of how they dominated Iowa State yesterday and how they've won multiple games in a row and they're playing better currently. So I thought that was
I
interesting.
think head to head that I would probably pick Arizona State to win.
Okay.
But at the same time, you would have had them neck and neck or next to each other in last week's rankings. And usually it's really tough to jump two teams
Mm-hmm.
when the other team wins in considerable fashion as well, because Boise
Right.
State, it wasn't that close, even though they didn't really put them away, similar to what Texas, was struggling with. It was only 21-7, I think the final was.
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head. I know that
But
their
it
defense played
never
great.
felt close, and it never was close.
Right.
So I don't know. Either way, both of them are going to be, getting a bye, which is huge for both of them. But at the same time, the thing is, what I was preaching all off season was this, or not all off season, but during the season was this is the perfect year for the 12
it
team
worked
playoff.
out
And
great. Yes,
because there's 0 great teams to me, like all time great teams, and basically anybody can be beaten. Even though Oregon is clearly deserves to be the one and it's definitive right now, I still think that there's multiple teams that could catch them.
I think Penn State was one of the biggest question marks coming into the weekend, and they played that game close, and that tells us that
was a great loss.
Yeah, they let up too many points. Their defense didn't look very good, but offensively they looked really good. Drew was playing his butt off. So like at the same time, you have a situation where you can play with the Ducks whenever you go on another neutral site if you have to, because I expect them to possibly have to get the 1 versus 8. If Penn State falls to 8, they would play each other again if Penn State could win that game. So it's a fun thing to talk about. Let's talk some football, NFL football though. We're going to share now so you can see the picks up on the board. We have been doing pretty well if you're playing our money line stuff, but
I've been doing terribly.
This
is my worst year. Freaking Bowen went 14-0 last week.
Did he really?
Yeah, the second week this year that he went undefeated, and that's just can't say much about that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, they've been killing it, and we have not, essentially. But it is what it is.
Spread picks have been good.
Yeah, spread picks, especially you. Obviously, you pushed on Thursday, but 40, 24, and 2 now is very, very strong. But everybody did pick Detroit. Was anything that stuck out at you for that game? I know it was really kind of back and forth, but not the way that we expected in terms of DFS wise.
I thought the Packers played better than I expected. I wish they would have thrown the ball to Jaden Reed, who is their best playmaker, and they did not get him the ball at all. So that was a little weird to me, but I thought they looked solid, and Josh Jacobs is going to get the ball 20 times no matter who they're playing or what they're doing. Even if they're down by 2 touchdowns, I feel like he's getting the ball. So that was kind of the thing that kind of stuck out to me the most.
Yeah. And then Detroit just kind of their resilience, and it just kind of feels different with them, which is a welcoming sight. I feel like they're like America's team right now. Okay. True America's team. Like if they were playing Kansas City, like maybe this whole country could just come together in unison for one time, because I know everybody's going to be rooting for Detroit if that our Super Bowl prediction ends up happening. And I feel very, very strong about that right now.
Yeah, both of those teams look really good. The only team that I think there's 2 teams that throw a wrench in it are obviously Philly and Buffalo. Yeah, because they both look good also. Then the first game up on our list is Tennessee and the Jaguars. Everybody picks Tennessee. I think everybody's just kind of off the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence will not be playing. He is on IR for
second straight year.
Yeah, it's a sad sight, but is what it is. And then everybody picks Miami over the Jets. Jets just look awful. So that's why I guess everybody's feeling the same way. It is in Miami. It's not in the cold. So
Breece Hall's out. I know there's several defensive injuries that I don't know if they've been confirmed or not. I'll look as we're doing our live stream, but they had a ton of injuries defensively as well. So I again done picking the Jets. I can't do it anymore.
Fair enough.
It's hurting me too much.
The next game though is controversial. 4 Minnesota picks, and then 2 Falcons picks and 4 Minnesota picks. That makes a lot of sense to me, actually. I think that's probably where the spread should be. I thought it was going to be 3-3. I went with Minnesota. You went with Atlanta. I think the reason is because Minnesota hasn't been playing that good. I just don't think Atlanta's that good either. So that's kind of my reasoning to go with Minnesota over them.
I mean, yeah, it's basically the Kirk Cousins revenge game.
Hmm.
How is he going to respond off a 4-pick game that essentially he's the reason they ended up losing at home to the Chargers last week? But I think they're basically a coin flip game, and I can't believe the spread is 6 right now, which I
Right.
was really really shocked that that wasn't one of your top 5, which we'll get into a second because we have a ton of similar ones as well. But real quick, basically everybody but Prisco and you picking y'all actually picked the Giants against the Saints, which was very interesting to me.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but maybe I just dislike the Saints. I don't know. It's not
Well,
even
they're
that,
not. Yeah,
but it's just more so like Taysom Hill is out. I more injuries. Chris Olave might be back. I'm not
not today. I
sure.
don't
Okay,
think.
next week. Okay. Um, but just kind of adding to the injuries, like they have Kamara, and that's about it. Defensively, they've been pretty, middle of the pack to back end. So it's like I'm just gonna say that the Giants find a way to win a game at home for what it's worth. They are 5-point dogs, so I will be taking that spread. But yeah, that's my thing.
Usually it's pretty rare you see that big of a dog at home, unless it's just like an elite team versus a
Yeah,
jobber top 5 pick caliber team. Which these two teams both being in the bottom 10 of the NFL, that's a pretty wide spread as well.
right. And then going to Philly and the Panthers, I think that's a pretty easy pick for everybody. They're 12.5-point favorites or
Yeah,
something crazy like that. The Browns and the Steelers, the Browns did get the better of the Steelers in the snow a couple weeks ago, but everybody's picking Pittsburgh to win the game. I was actually surprised by that, honestly. I was expecting someone to pick Cleveland.
yeah. I
Anybody
mean,
pick Jameis.
it should just be an ugly game again today. Cedric Tillman is still out for the record. Obviously, that's not a game where we're really prioritizing DFS wise, but Jerry Judy just going for 230, whatever he did,
Yeah.
and also Elijah Moore going for 100, and also David Njoku having 2 touchdowns. So they're almost matchup proof with the volume that they're getting.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about their prices a little bit because they are all modest, but at the end of the day, it's just kind of a game that could be overcorrected based on just Pittsburgh putting them away.
Yeah, and then the Raiders are at the Bucks. Everybody going with the Bucks. It's the Raiders are in kind of turmoil. They did play a good game last week against KC, but like I said last week when we did the showdown, they always play good games at KC. So it's not surprising to me that they were close. And then Arizona and the Seahawks. I was surprised by this actually. I almost picked Seattle. I
Really.
really almost picked Seattle. So
And again,
both
this is
of
the
us
second
picking
time in
Arizona.
3 weeks these two teams are playing. Obviously, Seattle in not bad weather, but just
Right.
rainy game ended up getting the better of the Cardinals. They've dropped a couple in a row, and then all of a sudden, Arizona is on the downside while Seattle regained first place. This is for first place at the very moment today. So this game means way more for the Cardinals
Mm-hmm.
because they've been beating up. The entire division has been beating each other up all season. That only one of these teams is probably going to get in, which kind of sucks.
Right.
To be honest, because I like all of the teams minus San Francisco with all the injuries, but obviously they're the most talented team if everybody was healthy. But yeah, really, really important game today.
And then the other team that is in this division in the Rams against the Buffalo Bills. I picked the Rams alone.
I mean, I'm
That's
really
okay though.
glad you did because I really kind of wanted to.
Wanted to.
Because I'm looking at the schedule and I'm just trying to project because I don't anticipate Buffalo going 15-2, and this is like the most losable game to me on
Right.
the rest of their schedule. And I think I even said when we did our power rankings that I was going to pick the Rams, and I chickened out of that. But it's a really tight game. I don't think it means as much from a playoff implication, especially for the Rams, who again, similar to the Cardinals and Seahawks, only one team's going to get in, but it's a non-conference game. Really, the Rams just got to win out their NFC games, and I think they'll be all right, even if they do lose today. But really fun game. Hopefully, it'll be a down to the wire game. That's a game that we're going to be talking about a lot today.
Yeah, Dustin did say he doesn't see Arizona losing at home today. They are -3 at this point, so I think that's a they are creeping up. They were at I think like -2.5, which going from -2.5 to -3 is a big jump. So I'd expect.
Yeah, I would not bet it from any kind of spread perspective whatsoever. But um, yeah, that is exactly how I would view it. Is a field goal game
Right.
one way or the other. So it just kind of depends on what side you're leaning on.
Yeah, and then everybody going Chicago in this next game against the 49ers, it's just due to injuries. I don't know how the 49ers are going to outscore. Well, Caleb Williams has played pretty well. They did fire Matt, so hopefully, they get a resurgence of, solid play from the offense if they can, kind of get going. But their defense has been good, and San Francisco's offense right now is just not going to have much to offer. We will be talking about some of the players because of injuries, but it's like,
Yeah, I'll actually have to correct that because a couple people ended up picking San Francisco. I think it's pretty split, but both of us
oh,
are on
they did.
Chicago. Yeah,
Who
both the
who picked
ESPN
them?
guys
Oh, really?
were on San Francisco, and I believe Pete Prisco did as well.
Okay.
Um,
Well, I added them. No worries.
cool.
Because
Here's some facts.
well, I will say too, it's like San Francisco has an opportunity because it's in San Francisco, but I really do think Chicago's the better team
Well,
today because of the
usually
injuries.
when teams fire coaches, you come up fired up the following week, and on top of that being a 10-day rest because they played on Thursday on Thanksgiving. And on top of that, that is one of the most I guess really positively looked at coaching changes of any
Right.
midseason firing because that was just a huge eyesore. We talked about that on Thanksgiving, the way they botched that once again, and then Matt Eberflus trying to justify it for whatever reason. But yeah, but San Francisco's for what it's worth is favorite today. I think it should be a true pick 'em, and I think they're all the way at minus or they're down to -3 now. It was -4.5 to open the week, but
yeah, I have it +4.5 for my picks when I got
yeah.
it, I guess. And then Chargers at Chiefs. That's going to be an awesome Sunday night football game tonight. So watching that game will be a lot of fun. I think that I think the Chargers. Well, I'm surprised we're the only ones picking the Chargers. What the heck?
Yeah,
All right,
I
cool.
don't
I'm fine with that.
I don't
They
know.
are +4 dogs.
Obviously,
But
they are on the road, but they played this team down to the wire. Their first matchup, and I just didn't see that this version of the Chiefs sweeping them. Usually,
yeah,
the Chargers of any of their divisional opponents have been the best at upsetting them over Patrick Mahomes' holistic career. Obviously, that's a large sample size for 7 years now.
mhm,
But yeah, that again, banger of a Sunday night game, and then Monday night from a DFS perspective should be fun at least.
right. I love
Bengals are now what are they at?
4-8.
4-8, but they're 5.5 point favorites. That's essentially kind of how I view it. Is about nearly a touchdown underdog for Dallas being at home. It would have been
Right.
over a touchdown if it was in Cincinnati. But yeah, very fun game. Wish I was going to that, but is what it is. Yeah, only one person picked Dallas outright actually, but I think Cincinnati is just clearly the better team despite all the injuries.
Yeah, I think that's a fair. I don't just Dallas. I mean, they have won. Don't get me wrong. Cooper Rush has figured out ways to win, but
Mhm.
I just don't think they're as good right now with the injuries, like you said. I think the Bengals have been obviously underperforming, so this game would be even wider if they had been playing better against good teams. So
Right.
it's just a close game. Or it shouldn't be a close game. It should be, a touchdown minimum, in my personal opinion. Next up, we'll talk about our spread picks. I went. How many do we have the same? We got
We had three the
three
same.
the same. That's
Mhm.
pretty good. So, yeah, you're picking Buffalo to win, right?
Yeah,
So,
picking Buffalo to win. So that's why I ended up or I mean, I still like the number. Obviously, it's been kind of what is it bet down? Yeah, it's bet down to 3.5 now. Um, yeah, I just think that 4.5 as a home team is just too wide for two good teams. Obviously, the Rams are not nearly as or playing as well as Buffalo at least, but yeah, 4.5 just seemed too wide to me. So that's why I still felt good about picking the spread as one of my favorites this week.
yeah, and then Chicago, we're both picking them outright. We're picking the Chargers outright. So picking those two were easy. I'm picking the Giants outright, so I will be playing that +5. And then Detroit hit already earlier, so that was good.
Well, it was a push, but
Or push, yeah.
You didn't lose.
I didn't lose. You're right. And then you went Atlanta at +6. I think
Which I'm
that's
picking them outright.
really wide for
Mhm.
that game. And then Arizona at -2.5. It is now -3, but
Obviously, yeah, I would not touch it if doing it now, but it's what it is. Yeah, pretty similar. We're probably just going to split the two games different and just have the same
right.
record once again. But I need to do some catch up because you are kind of pulling away from me in
Trying.
the spread picks. But yeah, let's kind of dive into some early only.
Let me
About
switch.
9:22 this morning. There's a lot of injuries popped late in the week, so that
Hmm.
kind of really jumbled all of this. A lot of running back value, and on top of that, running back up top is
Yeah.
better to spend up for. So it's very interesting. I feel like we're going to be really heavily leaning into 3 running back builds this week. But starting off, Jalen Hurts. Obviously, Philly has the highest total. They're the biggest favorite this week, and obviously, um, we've talked in time and time again about how frustrating it is to stack Jalen Hurts because he is not throwing the ball. He had one game against Washington where he ended up throwing 28 times, only 64% completed, but yeah, no, he's not close to flirting with 300 yards ever.
Right.
It's just basically if he can combine for 1.5 pass rush and receiving touchdowns, and he ends up working out more often than not when he does. Obviously, 5 touchdowns in the last 5 games rushing the football, and he's got 31-point games in there. He's got 30. I think he had 4 straight games of 30 ish fantasy wise, but then the last 3, 18, 15, 17, it's not really returning value based on his price. And so 7,800 is a pretty penny to spend on quarterback. I believe he's the only one um, above 7,000, if I remember correctly. He's the
On
only one
early.
above
Yeah.
65,
Yeah. I
actually.
was gonna say.
So essentially, he's kind of similar to what we viewed about Lamar a few weeks back, where it's just everybody's going to spend up or everybody's going to go down. But at least this time, it looks like Jalen Hurts isn't going to be as chalky. So very kind of interesting way to go about it, depending on, for what it's worth, Dallas Goedert put on IR this week, but Devontae Smith is returning from his 2-game absence from a hamstring injury.
Gotcha. And then Saquon has been a
Him.
MVP. Yeah, he's just been great. 100 yards in, I don't know, probably 6 of the last 7 games. Had one dud against Dallas, but they beat them 34-6. So I don't think that was really a dud. I think that was him just not getting the ball because they were up by so much.
His rushing prop was so high. It
This
was
week.
one of the highest that I've seen in some time, but it was 114 to open this week against Carolina, which Carolina is dead last against running backs. Makes all the sense in the world. Obviously, I'm not picking to bet it, but it's been bet down to 111 now.
Mm,
But just showing that just shows how Vegas views Saquon today. He is, I believe, the top projected flex player today. Yeah, 23 projected fantasy points is really, really high. But like I said, there's a lot of running backs up top that we'll talk about, that great spots or just no competition for touches, that all of them make sense to spend up for. It just kind of depends on how we want to view that and manipulate the ownership.
for sure. And then the pass catchers, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith is back, and then Grant Calcaterra because Dallas Goedert went on IR. So you get the opportunity to, if you do want to stack, I think that you could go with one of these guys up top and then pay for Grant Calcaterra at 3,500, and it makes it a little bit easier to double. That doesn't mean you want to do that,
Right.
but
If
it
I'm
doesn't
playing any
hurt you.
Jalen Hurts today, I'm just doing a single stack because you're already being different by not playing Saquon. And I mean, unless you want to just single stack Saquon and just see what happens. But
Right.
really, I would just pick AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts and just
Right.
kind of, there's ways to get different, especially when there's so many chalky running backs today. And how to move off that is really easy. And on top of that, you're not going to be able to spend up on a bunch of running backs if you start with the Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown build.
Right, exactly. And then going over, hold on 1 second. Let me scroll this down a little bit. Get to my clear down there.
Yeah.
Going over to the next quarterback. Ooh, come on, mouse. Believe in you. It's going to be Sam Darnold. He's 6,100. He is honestly, it's probably about right price wise, but the fact that it's just such a big difference between him and Jalen Hurts is crazy to me.
Yeah, I talked about this in the first look main video that I was so Aaron Jones is a senior now.
I guess so.
On DraftKings, but yeah, this game was my favorite game by far to target, even though it is not the highest total. It's jumped up to, I believe, being the second highest on the week. But yeah, I think it's a great spot for both teams. Obviously, like I said, Kirk Cousins' revenge game, but also Sam Darnold. He had a little lump or lull for a couple weeks, but he's really kind of coming strong in recent weeks.
Pull this up.
Um,
Sorry.
no, you're good.
Grab it.
But yeah, so in terms of value, is obviously 24 and a half, 24 again, and then basically 20 points, and all of them essentially around $6,000. His price didn't really change, but this is probably his best matchup of this 4-game recent sample size. So essentially, he's got the 25-point upside. He's got the passing volume, over 30 attempts every single game. He's not throwing interceptions anymore. Obviously, 6 touchdowns, 0 picks over the last 3 weeks. 300-yard threat. I think he's really strong today. And then obviously, I talked about how much I love Justin Jefferson as well. He's kind of positive touchdown regression, kind of due for one. He is now bet down to even money for a touchdown prop today. If you wanted to jump on that, but still is my number one. But yeah, he's due for that 100-yard game. He went for 99 yards last week. He has not scored a touchdown since October. So he's just kind of due for the big game. Obviously, he's had 4 straight games of just kind of having duds. His price is the cheapest that I can remember. I don't remember the last time he was under $8,000 in the last 2 years with how well he's done. He's just quietly second in the league in receiving again.
Tad bit disrespectful on the price. I'll be honest. Yeah. I was not expecting him to be this low. So,
but the funny thing is, he's not really pulling the ownership, especially for early on the slate, that I would think, because he's the only guy I would really truly spend up for being stackless or as a standalone play.
Right.
Obviously, AJ Brown's only to me a play if you're going to do a Jalen Hurts build. I'd rather go to Saquon if I'm going to spend up on Eagles. But really, it's just those 2 guys, and Justin Jefferson on early only is only about 21%. Pretty cheap, or pretty low owned for what I thought he would be based on the matchup.
Yeah, and then looking at the other guys, Jordan Addison in the same matchup. He has had big weeks this week. So he does have the games where he doesn't do anything. So he did have this game where he went 8 for 162 and a touchdown, but then also you can see he goes for 2 for 25 and isn't helpful for your.
But in spite of that, like he's kind of come on over the last 5 weeks, had a couple duds in there, but his price hasn't jumped at all. He still is kind of, they're just forcing him below 5,500, and so he's really easy to double on today. Basically, it's really easy to just know when you're doing a Sam Darnold double the way that they do their snap counts and what have you. It's just Justin Jefferson and then pick Jordan Addison or TJ Hawkinson. That's essentially the decision you have to make, and then do a bring back with a lot of Falcons that all makes sense to me, except for Kyle Pitts, because he's just basically quit on himself and with how poorly he's played in recent weeks. But yeah, love this game today. We're going to be talking about it a lot. I don't know if I can do a single line today without some kind of exposure to this game.
Fair. And then going to the other side, I think Kirk goes the next price quarterback. Yeah, it is. 5,500 going up against Minnesota, who's 19th against quarterbacks. Go grab. Where is Bijan? There you are. And then we'll go grab the cheap wide receivers. Why is Drake London $6,400? I don't know.
16 targets last week, guys. And for some reason, they're just like, we're going to drop him $300 in price or whatever he was. He's been above 6,500 for a long while, and now he's in the best match that you can see. And mine's another guy due for touchdowns. Yeah, he had a lot of touchdowns to start the year. But yeah, 16 targets, 13 targets, 10 targets, 12 targets. He's clearly the one in this offense. And Darnell Mooney has been honestly really good. If you invest in him in best ball this year, he's been killing it. Boom games. He's averaging 13 for the season.
Yeah, it's really solid.
Couple duds back to back, and that's why his price is now back to $5,500. So again, it's dropping to where you can do a reasonable double, especially because Kirk Cousins is the cheapest. And again, it's just revenge game narrative. I don't know. Do you have a lean with this game? What side you would prefer to stack if you had to decide, hey, I'm doing 2 lines with this quarterback and 1 line with this quarterback?
I would prefer Kirk. Based on price alone, I think it makes it so much easier. And I'll pull. So we just talked about Justin Jefferson. He's my bring back in all these lines, TJ or all the other guys. So I think it's more generic that you just go with 2 of these guys, because Kirk could throw the ball 40 times and that's not going to surprise anybody. Aaron Jones is a little bit more of a poacher. I know Bijan's been really good. Let's pull him up real quick. So that we could. He's actually got the floor targets. So if you wanted to double stack with Bijan, I'm not against that either because he does have 6 and 7 targets in the last 5 games multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's an option. So
he's also had 4 straight games where he's been above 70% of the snaps, and Tyler Algier has been below 30 in those sample size. So essentially, he's kind of really eating into the workload. Obviously, last week we brought up that just like Bijan, I don't know if he can get to that 20 touch threshold, and lo and behold, he had that in the first half. Essentially,
yeah, he was.
He had 14 touches in the first quarter and just didn't look back. I think 32 touches was a season high for him.
I'm sure it was.
He's been killing it this year. He had a couple. He's had a couple of down weeks, but a lot of that was negative game scripts. Obviously, he had a 10-point game 2 weeks ago, but that was when they lost by 32.
Mhm.
And then other than that, really, he's just been crushing it the last 7-8 weeks, being over a floor of 20 points.
I mean, he's just absolute
since
stud.
week 5, he's been over 20 except for that one game, and it was a bad game script. So essentially, but Minnesota, they're worse against the pass game than the run game. But at the same time, like you said, because of the floor with his targets, he's a really solid play, and I don't think he's going to be pulling much ownership today because of the fact that guys up top like Saquon, Alvin Kamara is the most owned skill player today. Devon Achane being without Raheem Mostert likely. So in the early only, he's showing at 16%, but I would bet you in the main he'll be under 10% or at least under 15 for sure. So really solid, pivot if you wanted to go that route, especially when we're talking about singles or doubles. I'm not against doing a Bijan like double with a just Drake London Bijan.
That would
the
be
only
fun.
2 touching the football. Maybe we'll build a line with that later to see how we can maneuver around with that.
Luckily, there's some cheap running backs that we can get to, so we won't have to worry about that issue. Going on to the next game or next quarterback, it's Will Levis. He's going up against the 32nd ranked Jacksonville Jaguars against quarterbacks. He does have, he has been here. I'll grab Tony real quick. He's been okay. He's, as a quarterback at 5,000, I don't think you would hate if he got you 15 points, and I think that's about right.
I think the reason we played them because they're home favorites. Obviously, Jacksonville has just been awful defensively this year. Tennessee hasn't been favored really at all this season, but also the fact that I think he's hit the 15 threshold in 16, 18, then 16 again, or 4 straight.
Yeah, 4 straight.
He had a 19. Yeah. So all of that is 3x value, and so if he can get to 15, that's usually quarterbacks 5,000 below. That's what we're aiming for. Excuse me. I don't know if we need to go down that low this week,
right?
Because again, if I can find a way to have $500 more to have a safer, Kirk Cousins,
right? I'd much rather play Kirk Cousins,
but at the same time, he's not highly owned,
but he is
solid spot today. He's the second highest value.
That's exactly what I was going to say. He is one of the highest values. So Drew Lock's first, and then Will, and then Baker.
Right and we were going to talk about Drew Lock. Obviously, we brought him up in the main. He's only 4,700. Obviously, he does have some rushing upside. His only touchdown last week was a rushing touchdown. But Malik Neighbors popped up on the injury report, and it sounds like he's going to play, but is going to be on a pitch count. So when your best receiver is on a pitch count, I don't want to invest in you because I don't want to single stack you with Wan'Dale Robinson, who hasn't been playing well. Darius Slayton hasn't been getting enough volume. So kind of like I don't want to stack you with anybody, and you're not a type of quarterback, even though he does have some rushing upside. He's not one that, we can just puke him, puke
by himself.
Exactly. So honorable mention, he is the highest value projected today, projected for 15.1 points on 4,700. Again, similar to Will Levis, pretty solid, but slightly better matchup for Will Levis. And then on top of that, I feel more comfortable with the stacking options.
Fair. No, for sure. And then let me clear that one out.
Yeah, Nick Westbrook at Keenan having eight touchdowns on 20 catches.
Yeah. Calvin Ridley actually
just 700 for six. He just wants to be 5,700. And lately he's been pretty solid. A couple duds in there, but this is his best matchup to date. Obviously with Jacksonville, also a revenge game because he did play for the Jaguars for his lone season last year. So if you want to bake that narrative in as well, go for it. Ownership wise, I know he was kind of limited all week, but 16% is kind of lower than I thought it was because he's really the only, but he's one of like 2, maybe 3 options in the 5K range as receivers that I really like today.
And then, like you said, Nick Westbrook Akine, we had to pull him up real quick because 2 touchdowns last week, 1 touchdown, and then 6 out of 7, I guess, from there. he's just been a touchdown machine, including a 98-yarder. So
Everything
I
about
don't
that
know.
screams don't play him. But
Right.
the thing is, this is one of the best matchups that you can have in the past game. And on top of that, he played 100% of the snaps last week,
Yeah.
every single snap. So even though he's not getting a ton of targets, he's converting on the targets, but he's also playing so much. So even though he is all the way up to $4,700, I think the ownership is baking in that lack of trust in him, and
Hmm.
he's only showing less than 5% owned on the early only slate. So he's truly like a completely, you
Start
can get
throw.
10x the field if you just play 1 out of 5 lines with him. So I don't know if we're gonna force that today. We'll see if we even play any Will Levis in our main. But he is worth mentioning, even though it doesn't feel like it makes sense.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and make some lines.
All right. So quarterback wise, which one you? I know you said you prefer Kirk. Is that who you want to start with?
Yeah, we can start with Kirk.
All right.
He makes the most sense to me. I'm down to, because we're doing, we're trying to have some fun with this, of course. We don't have to do the basic stack. I think that the Bijan stack is a lot of fun.
It is
I
worth noting that Kirk Cousins, I was really surprised his lack of projection. He's actually the sixth lowest projected quarterback today, and he is only because of that showing 4% owned. So even though there's a lot of ownership with Falcons today, obviously Drake London's over 20%. Darnell Mooney is actually less than 10. But Bijan being 16 in the early only,
Mhm.
um, really easy to just play the chalkiest guys. And because nobody's playing Kirk Cousins, that's the way you're being different, is just investing in him. So again, I didn't really have this thought cross my mind, but yeah, Drake London, Bijan, you're the only two people that are going to touch the ball when
Uh,
it's important. So
yeah,
why not play
exactly.
both? You know,
Bijan's been so good. He's actually probably gonna cut into Darnell Mooney's production out of everything.
right?
Drake is gonna get production because he's just gonna get so many targets. He needs to score a touchdown today if we really want him to work out. But I think that this stack is fun. Obviously, on Minnesota, we want Justin Jefferson. It's going to leave us no money, but hey, it is what it is. And then defensively, let's save some money real quick. Let's go grab a defense. I want more than just these teams, though. Let's see which one.
Still clicking Philly.
Philly, get out of here. And Tennessee. All right,
Real quick before we do continue, we do have a question in the chat.
perfect.
Don play. Can y'all help me on my single entry lineup for DK? This is my first time playing all year. Can y'all look at my lineup for me and tell me what you think?
Yeah,
Yeah. Submit some lines.
yeah. Send them in
Some
the chat. We'll
Yeah.
tell
We'll
you what we
critique it.
think.
We'll tell you why you're
Absolutely.
wrong. I'm just kidding. You're probably going to have a better line than us today. So
I mean, you can't truly go wrong as long as you have, some chalk and then some tournament plays. You'll be fine.
the biggest advice I'd say is just like, I think a lot of our lines are going to be doing 3 running back builds today, and usually we don't really invest in that, but there's basically 3 elite value options at running back because of the injuries today, and then obviously up top we talked about Saquon. Alvin Kamara is the most popular. Bijan is a really good contrarian play in terms of all the top options. So really a lot of great ways to invest in running back, which is why we like the position today. That's my only advice, but I am excited to see what you did for your first look.
Absolutely. What defense do you want to do? Well, he sends that in the chat. Well, as soon as he gets it in there, we can flip over to the other one and check it
My
out.
initial thought was Cleveland,
Okay. I don't
because
hate
it's one of
that.
the lowest totals. Giants, you have them picked out right today, but at the same time, statistically, they have not done much this season
Right.
to get sacks, turnovers, all that good stuff. And then Tennessee, I think, was one that stuck out as the highest value this week. Ownership wise, I bet you they're the most popular. Yes, they are at 18%, which is not crazy. So basically, the 3 most popular are Tennessee, Cleveland, and Jacksonville. So everybody wants to pick a cheap defense. They just don't know which one.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's go with Tennessee. I think that's my favorite defense down below. We did get the chat from him,
Let's see.
so tell me what they are.
So
Real
he's
quick.
got and again, we're on the early only at
I,
the moment.
I
But
flipped it.
oh,
It's
you
okay.
did?
Yeah,
Okay, sweet.
I have it
So
open.
he's got Aiden O'Connell,
Okay.
Bucky Irving, Zach Charbonnet.
Oh, I picked the wrong one. Sorry. Whoops. I'm gonna do the stats, I guess. Okay, so Aiden O'Connell, Bucky,
Bucky, Zach Charbonnet, Jacoby Myers, Drake London, Smith.
Zach is.
I'm wondering if that's Devontae Smith.
Well,
That's a
we'll
receiver.
put him in last.
Okay. Saints D, Trey McBride, and Brock Bowers. So he's doing that double elite tight end.
All right then. I like
Let's
it.
see.
Trey McBride and Brock, huh? 61. Defense
said
was New Orleans.
Smith for Seahawks.
Okay. So who was the other wide receiver I'm missing?
Jacoby, Drake London, and Jason.
And Jason. Okay, perfect. All right.
So let's see.
So he's big on the Arizona Seattle game, basically. And then he wants I like the structure though.
Yeah.
You get if you're on the Raiders Tampa Bay game, I think it's a sneaky game. So I'm not against it. The Raiders just have to probably get to 28 points for this to really feel comfortable.
The main critique I'd say is that usually with single entries, which I'm not only doing cash builds for single entries when I do those, but typically single entries are basically a cash version of a tournament. And so usually people are playing the chalkiest guys. I think you have a lot of tournament look with this line. Bucky Irving, he was limited all week, and I believe his ownership is less than 10% right now because of his price jump. Zach Charbonnet, obviously one of the 3 elite, cheap running back options. Jacoby Myers is somebody we've been clicking on a lot lately.
Yep.
The only thing is he's been a true, game time decision based on his limited practice this week, but I expect he'll play, and I wouldn't be concerned if he didn't. So in that game, he's probably, a preferred bring back, or would you say Brock Bowers is your preferred of the two if you had to pick one? I know he played both in this line.
For bring back?
Mm-hmm. For a on the other side of the Bucky Irving. So if you had to pick a
he's playing Aiden.
Oh, you're right.
He's playing Aiden. So yeah, he's double stacking Aiden, yes. And then bringing back with Bucky. I think that the line's actually pretty nice for like I can write the narrative for this line to make a lot of sense, especially because you are getting so much value. You will have found, of course, the Drake London. Jacoby Myers is one of the highest values on the slate. Zach Charbonnet at 4,800 is a free square this week and will be a guy we talk about a lot. I think that the tournament side of it is the fact that you're playing 2 tight ends. If you wanted to get, say, off of, because I do believe you played 2 Seattle players, you could possibly get off of JSN and McBride and I guess that's actually my Arizona player. You could find another way to get this Arizona bring back.
Take out JSN real quick and just kind of go through some options of like
who's there. DK is also there.
Well, yeah.
But you could play Marvin and then.
But that excuse me, that would also be to Arizona. So kind of.
Well, I was going to say pull McBride. So you wouldn't play 2 tight ends. It would make it more cash buildy, but otherwise, I think it's a really good line. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so. I don't mind it at all. I think it's a really good tournament line. And on top of that, Jacoby and Brock Bowers both pulling north of 15% owned, but Aiden is less than 3% owned. So that is how you're getting different, similar to what we were talking about Kirk Cousins. So yeah, very, very solid build, my friend.
Yeah, I think if you're going to write this narrative, it makes a lot of sense. We just happen to want to. You didn't have any of the Minnesota game, which is a game we're going to be targeting. So
other than Drake London as a standalone, but,
right.
Which I don't mind at all because again, 16 targets and we're going to drop him in price. So we're going to have a lot of Drake London today as well.
I also think it's a little scary fading the Philly game too.
Yeah,
because Philly's just going to dominate.
You just got to spin all the way up.
Yeah,
that's the only thing. So he did more of a generic build. I don't think he has a single guy above 6,500,
which is
or 66, I guess with Bucky. Yeah. But again, that's another less than 10% owned guy. So yeah, I like it.
Yep, makes a lot of sense. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for commenting, Don. Let's go back over to early and finish out though. We do have, of course, our Atlanta, Minnesota build, and then we've got Tennessee at defense.
And so, again, we were talking about some of the most elite running back options as values today. So the big 3, obviously, Isaac Rindo, which we knew that one from the jump. We talked about that in our first look main. He's being 52.
He's on the other slate.
54. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
So 5,400. And then, obviously, Zach Charbonnet as well in the afternoon slate as well. So the only one is Braylon Allen, which obviously Breece Hall was ruled out this week. So him being at $5,000, he's the only cheap one on this slate. So if we but just volume wise, I don't see how he's not going to be north of 15 touches today.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so do you want to go with Braylon real quick in this line, or do you want to go somewhere else? Do you want to pick a game that we want to attack?
So, go to tight end real quick because I know we were interested in Brock Bowers, like our friend just mentioned. Hard to get all the way up to him at 65. But
Yeah, just in this line, it's going to be difficult.
right. But at the same time, we've got Grant Calcaterra as a value.
Mhm.
TJ Hawkinson is popping in projections. He let us down last week, but always due for a bounce back because he just did have a 100-yard game a couple weeks ago. And his snaps are generally increasing as the season goes on, as he's getting back from his ACL. That's pretty much where I'm looking at tight end. It's just cheap, Hawk, or all the way up.
Well,
What would you prefer to do?
I don't want to pay all the way up because I don't think we have the money,
Okay.
and then I don't want another Minnesota player. So that kind of
That's
just easy way to narrow it down and go with Grant Calcaterra against the 32nd ranked Carolina Panthers for the position. So I think that makes the most sense to me. We have 5,500 per player. We can actually do a lot of things. We could. There's some options. There's some cheaper wide receivers that we could get to. So what are you thinking for the next guy in?
I mean, the rest of the way, it makes kind of sense to live in the middle.
Yeah.
I mean, right now the highest projected receiver on the entire slate is Jacoby Myers. He's 5,600. His volume has been incredible. Jerry Jeudy coming off a 230-yard game. He's only 5,700. And then we talked about Calvin Ridley a couple minutes ago, popping as well. All of them above 15% owned. Do you have a favorite of those guys?
I think Jacoby's my favorite.
Okay.
He's the most consistent. I know that Jeudy, though, has also been super consistent. So it's between these two over Calvin Ridley, in my opinion.
Well, then let's click on Jacoby.
Okay. I'm not against going with both of them.
All right. So we got 54 left. If we went up to or if we went down to Braylon Allen, we would have 59 remainder, and that would just basically only be another receiver.
Which is probably Jerry.
Yeah, it would probably be Jerry, in my opinion, as well. Running back wise, in the middle range, Tyrone Tracy's an honorable mention, but I don't really want to get to him today. But it is worth mentioning New Orleans has had a lot of bad games against running backs. So, and on top of that, with Malik Neighbors being on a pitch count, he might be having the most volume today as long as he holds on to the football because he's had some fumbling issues.
Right. I think I did put Braylon in. We're sitting in this range. Like you said, Tyrone Tracy is actually 5,800, which is lower than he's been recently. I think Jeudy makes the most sense of all the plays. Even knowing he's going up against Pittsburgh, he will probably get just peppered with targets.
Right.
So there's
like we mentioned, Cedric Tillman also out once again. And he had a really solid game. I think he had 6 for 84 in the snow against Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Either way, he was a really solid play in our tournaments when we did builds. But yeah, I mean, I'm fine riding with that for our last guy in.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense, at least. And then we could also talk about, going up or going down. I wonder what is Njoku's price, because I can't remember off the top of my head.
I think he was like low
51.
Yeah, 51.
Okay, so you could, instead of going Jeudy, you could go to 5,100 and then have a different look if you wanted to get off of Grant Calcaterra or something like that.
I think what kind of makes it a little weird today is that I don't really feel good about anybody below 5,000 as a receiver.
Right.
And so lately we've had a lot of receivers that have been really cheap that have just been clicks on to open up value. But today the value is really only at running back. But it kind of sucks in a grand scheme of things because there's also the best plays are at running back up top. So a lot of high low, like I said, is what we're kind of looking at doing. That's kind of what we did here. But yeah, pretty solid first look for
do
early only.
Want to build another one, or do you want to go to the next? Actually, no. Let's go on and to afternoon, and maybe we'll get the showdown slate in. Let's try to get the showdown in.
Let's do it. Yeah, we missed it a couple weeks, technical difficulties, and also ran out of time a couple weeks ago. But yeah, it's a really fun, like we talked about, Chiefs and Chargers.
Yeah, that's why. Today. Yeah, I think it's a fun slate. So let's talk about it a little bit.
All right, afternoon.
Buffalo is our first build. We're our first quarterback with Josh Allen. There are some receivers. I don't know if Keon Coleman will play. We'll have to see.
So Keon is a true game time decision, but it looked like this morning that Dalton Kincaid was trending to be out. So once again, another Dawson Knox play. He's been okay, but also there's been a lot of blowouts recently for Buffalo. So it's not like they've had the volume to be going, because even though Josh Allen is catching touchdown, or not catching, but only receiving those touchdowns, and then rushing for touchdowns. I think he was the first player. I don't have the stat top of my head, but yeah, catching, throwing, and receiving a touchdown last week.
He might be
Really
the first one
incredible.
ever.
Yeah, he is right now the betting favorite for the MVP, and he's had one of the safest floors all season with, in terms of being a quarterback. The problem is he hasn't had the stylistically how he's done it before, where he had 300-yard upside. He hasn't really hit that mark this year for
Right.
the most part. So it's really just the rushing touchdowns and then nailing who catches those touchdowns. Um, but Amari Cooper, first game back from a wrist injury that missed a couple games for that, did okay.
Yeah.
But again, they were ahead a lot, so can't really help with that. But he is the highest valued receiver, or he was the highest valued receiver on the afternoon slate. Now it's kind of dipped a little bit. Khalil Shakir is now leading the way, at least in the Buffalo side, at 14 projected. Basically, quarterback's pretty spread out on this afternoon slate. It's a three gamer. Um, there's three guys above 22%, and all of them are below 33. So really, Kyler, Josh Allen, and Caleb is who people are investing in, and they're all very different prices. So it just kind of depends on how you want to do it. But clearly, Josh Allen's the top option if you can get to him.
Yep, absolutely. And then I would double stack him most likely, and hope that James Cook doesn't have a good day like he's had recently. But
And then also the fun thing is that other than James Cook, who is the most expensive running back on this slate, all the expensive or pay ups that I talked about are in the first set of games in the 12 o'clock game.
right.
So there's two cheap options at running back on the afternoon slate. And I don't know if we're going to force James Cook or Kyron, but it feels like we can just double pay down if we have to,
Mhm.
which makes you have the ability to afford a Josh Allen, because all his receiving options obviously below 6,000.
Well, yeah, and I was gonna say, just for reference, Isaac Rindo is 69.4% owned on
Yeah,
this spot, and then Zach Charbonnet is 51.5% owned. So those two guys are going to be in everybody's lines. So if
right.
you want to get different,
Having
that's how you do it.
120% combined ownership is makes me think that probably half the builds in afternoon are going to have both of them
Right.
in some way, shape, or form.
And then let's go over to our other quarterbacks. Other quarterback, Kyler Murray on this slate is the only other guy we're looking at. My favorite is probably Josh Allen, but if you have to get down to Kyler, I'm not against it. Our friend Don really liked this game, having a few guys in it, giving us Michael Wilson here. He's
Right.
caught touchdowns, and
Last week
then
we had some
bang.
coach speak that kind of gave us some confidence to invest in Marvin for about a quarter and a half. We were very, very
I was
nervous,
confident.
but he had the volume. He just was not clicking. He, for whatever reason, when they're not on, he and Kyler are just not in sync. Like there's a lot of just miscommunications on routes and throws and all that stuff. But he had 12 targets, which I believe was a season high. Caught a touchdown, hit our overs for the props that we did pick him on. But yeah, his price didn't move at all. He's been 6,000 essentially for a couple weeks now, and I don't think he's going to be terribly high owned today. It looks like in the main he's only about 7, and in the afternoon it looks like, let's see, about 21.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, all the receivers up top are basically kind of canceling themselves out in terms of ownership. Everybody's between, there's what, nine
Nine receivers
receivers
above
above
20%.
20%. So
Yeah.
yeah, everybody's really kind of all over the place at that position today.
Don, yes, you should try to pick games that have high totals. That's how you can get the most points by quarterback and whatnot, pushing the ball down the field and stuff like that. But at the same time, being different in the game you pick. So I believe you picked the Raiders in Tampa Bay. I don't know where that game
That's
is.
one of the 5 highest totals.
Is it okay?
Mhm.
So picking a game that isn't like top 2 highest totals, and that is a way to get different naturally. Especially in tournaments, you're a single entry tournament guy, so you play more cash. But if you were like, well, I think Seattle, Arizona is going to be the highest scoring game, you should play that game as your main stack and stuff like that.
What's good leverage is the fact that it is the set on the main slate, at least. Obviously, they're not on the afternoon slate, but Tampa Bay and Las Vegas is the second highest total on the slate. And basically, other than Jacoby Myers, there's no chalk.
Well, good.
Everybody's below 10% essentially, other than Brock Bowers, which you double tight end. Anytime you double tight end, you're
Already
very different
different,
from the
yeah.
field. So, yeah, that's that. You're actually doing, without realizing it, doing a lot of good by targeting that game because of the ownership perspective.
Yeah, and you have to double Aiden. You can't leave AOC single stacked, unfortunately, because he has no
And it's
rushing
really
upside.
easy to know who you're doubling.
Yeah.
The only thing I wanted to point out was Sincere McCormick. If Alex Madison is out, obviously Zamir White's already ruled out. But if Alex Madison is out, that just opens up a lot. They told him we're going to get him more touches
Right.
and looks, and he looked better of the two between him and
Amir
Amir Abdullah.
Mhm.
And last week, let me pull up the snap count real quick before we move on. Last week, he jumped up to 38%.
Nice.
And I bet you they go
Could be
50-50 or
50-ish, yeah.
maybe even lean more into Sincere today. And he's only 4,600. And we talked about a bunch of cheap running backs. Nobody's playing him right now.
Yeah.
So obviously, if Alex Madison's ruled out before the 12 o'clock slate starts, he might jump up to maybe 6 or 7.
Yeah.
But I don't think once he's ruled out, everybody's going to be like, oh, now we can throw him in, because there's so many options already that they're just probably, he would rank 4th if we just ranked him in a vacuum. But ownership wise, very, very low owned compared to the other 3.
Yeah, good leverage on him for sure. Going back to this game or this team here, Trey McBride he can't score touchdowns. It's okay, but he is doing really well in getting targets. He's got 12 and 15 targets, 27 targets the last 2 weeks. He is the tight end that, I actually think I liked Trey McBride more than Brock Bowers this week, and it's pretty widespread.
His best game of the season by far was, not by far because he's been very solid all year, but 12 for 133 his last game against Seattle. And so they were playing from behind, having 28 points from that spot was really strong. 6,100 is pretty solid price, honestly, for him. And I don't think he's going to be on the afternoon slate. It looks like he's going to be the most popular guy. But because of the value and the way that you're able to get to him. But in terms of the main slate, it looks like he's less than 10%.
Gotcha.
So really, really strong there.
Yeah, I like him a lot this week. And then do you want to talk about anybody else on the team?
No.
Gloss over.
I mean, shout out to Greg Dortch for Dusty, but he just is not playing much anymore, and he is just not getting any volume. So DFS wise, he is not in our player pool, but we will cheer and high five every time he gets a catch. So
right. Which quarterback do you want to start with?
Josh.
Perfect.
I want to see how we can get to him. But doing that, we're probably going to have to do double cheap running back.
It's fine.
Be a little chalky. So go with Garindo and go with Mr. Zach Charbonnet.
Oh, there's way less people on this slate. That one and that one.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Go. Let's select our defense. Do you have one that sticks out between these 3 for you? Or 3 games at least. Chicago is, well, this can't be right. They're not going to be 77% owned, but they're the
2,400.
They're going to be the most popular defense.
Can I play them?
Yeah.
Even at 77% owned?
Yeah. Sure.
That's not bad chalk, right?
No.
Okay, cool.
But at the same time, every single time we play a chalky Chicago defense, it has not worked out this year. But being the cheapest they've really been, I'm completely fine with it.
Fair. And then going to wide receiver, there are some really good ones up top in Puka.
What is your preferred bring back for this game? Or for the Josh Allen double that we're about to do?
Let's just do the double. I think. Oh my gosh, Kyron has not played as well as we want him to.
He didn't have a carry in the first quarter last week, and then all of a sudden still had 100 yards.
I like Kyron,
but I think Kyron is probably the preferred option.
Okay, cool. So I'm not alone on that, luckily.
Ownership wise, let's see. I bet you Kyron is the most popular of the 3. Yeah, Kyron is pulling 32%.
Wow.
Actually, Puka, where are you at, Puka? Puka's at 34.
I was going to say, if he has no ownership, we're playing him.
Cooper Kupp, 27. So they're all kind of in a similar vacuum, picking one.
Kyron, I mean, he had 21 points last week on 15 carries, which is kind of what I was hoping he'd get to, is about 15 carries, but I need the passing volume.
Yeah, we do.
And that's the problem here. So
PPR, Kyron, we need you.
I think Kyron's my favorite.
Okay, so let's throw Kyron in. So no, that eliminates a double tight end, but let's try to fit Trey McBride. I don't know if we can.
No, he's going in this line. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to do it.
All right.
Jawan Jennings is the highest value on the slate for San Francisco, and That makes me uncomfortable.
Well, the problem is, well, okay, never mind. So what we're gonna do is I guess with this build, because we have to get some value, we're gonna have to go down to Curtis Samuel, I think,
That's
if we're
fine.
gonna double.
Cool with me. Yeah, I was gonna say I haven't even done that yet. Have I?
Last week he had a dud, but he's been kind of trending up with snaps in
Do
recent weeks.
we have
What?
to play Curtis? Oh, we can't play Dawson. That's why.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And then
Yeah.
on top of that, you know, being able to afford a double, you're not going to be able to get to Khalil Shakir. And so if Keon's out, it's just him, Amari Cooper, and Curtis Samuel. So obviously, if Keon is in, that makes me less confident in Curtis because of targets, but they don't play the
Right.
same style of receiver. So I don't think it's going to really hugely eat into his snap share, at least.
What is I believe DJ Moore is going to play. So let me go look and see what the
He was limited all week with the quad injury.
is
Expected to suit
expected.
up.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. So he's 6,100. He's a guy we could get to if we want a Chicago play.
What's interesting in the Chicago game is that really they have a lot of the lower ownership from the receiver position, even though Caleb has north of 20% ownership at as a quarterback.
Interesting.
Um,
So they're
so
single stacking Caleb Williams this week.
I
That's
mean
crazy thought.
everybody's below 25%. I think a lot of people are scared off of DJ Moore's quad Q tag injury. And then Keenan Allen, obviously pretty safe floor. But if you're getting different, if you want to play Caleb today, I would still play Rome because even though they've been out of sync, he's been getting a ton of targets.
Yeah, he's
But he
5,000.
is by far lower owned and he is the cheapest guy.
Yeah.
So if you're doing any kind of double with Caleb, which he's another quarterback, you should double if you play him. I would probably just pick one of those two and then go with Rome.
Right.
And again, I can't back that up with math or production the past few weeks, other than just volume, opportunity, and that's the way to get different in tournaments.
Okay.
So
Last player in is probably DK Metcalf here.
so
It's not
you
pretty.
prefer DK? Oh, never mind. We can't afford Jason.
That's
That's not fun.
But what I can do is I can put a different RAM in, and then we can talk about options there.
Okay, try Puka instead. That leaves 58, and scroll down a little bit.
George Kittle.
George Kittle. He's actually popping in projections as well.
He's really good at football.
Yeah, favorite tight end.
Well,
it's kind of gone down a little bit, but he's still projected 13, which is solid.
We could also stack. DeAndre Swift probably isn't going to get very much look, and we could stack our defense with a running back. I don't know if that's the option, but it is, or if that's the thing to do, but it is an option. He hasn't had, the problem is he hasn't had the volume. Keenan,
yeah, we could do a chalky Juwan and leave some salary on the table. He is the highest owned skill player highest owned receiver at least. Running back wise, we talked about Grindo being the highest owned, but he's popping. He just keeps on having a solid floor. Back to back kind of somewhat duds. Do you have a preference, or do you want to try to get up to maybe a Marvin again and try to invest in him? We can go back to, instead of Puka, go back to Kyron if you want.
I think Keenan makes sense here too, though. He's been really good in the last few weeks, so that kind of makes me wonder if he's a guy that I want to get to.
Okay, that's fine. And we don't have a bring back, or we don't have a Chicago player for our correlated Isaac Garindo, and defense. Obviously Chicago's defense. So
yeah, I wouldn't be against playing Keenan. I'm not against going back to Kyron and going up to DK though, also. Because
you would prefer DK over a Marvin if
I already have Trey McBride, I think I'm gonna go DK.
But it's a 3-gamer. We can break some rules,
Yeah, but
I will say projection wise, it looks like that DK they're right next to each other, but yeah. DK is a 1.6 points higher projected. He is also 2% higher owned. But yeah, both of them are solid plays if you want to go that route. So basically Puka and Keenan, or DK and Kyron. What is your final answer?
DK and Kyron.
All right, I think.
Let's do it. Yeah.
So let's do it. So go back to DK, but you were like, I don't want two Cardinals. Well, now we have 2 Seahawks. So
that's okay though, because one of them is Zach Charbonnet, who's giving me the that's why it's okay. They're not too pass catchers.
Will happy, even though he's not on the stream. Gary,
morning, Gary.
To you, sir.
Gary, you missed the slander of the Packers, so you need to go watch the beginning of the video.
Right.
because you have to listen to us slander your team. And then, yeah. So, done. Do you want to talk
Actually,
another line?
who was the other quarterback? I know Caleb. Let's try a Kyler build real quick. We still got 24 minutes. We're actually ahead of schedule typically than what we normally do. But do a Kyler line because I want to see doing obviously a Marvin and Trey McBride build with a bring back of Charbonnet. What else we can do with some lines?
Just Charbonnet.
Too low. 48.
Still too low. I didn't scroll that fast. Promise.
It's just a small slate, man.
All right, so there you go. That's
and
a
then
start.
just throw Chicago back in because why not?
They're too cheap.
Yep. And then
Do you want Isaac?
yeah, put Isaac. I don't think you can fade Isaac on the afternoon slate. I think I was actually surprised that his ownership stayed as high as it was after the Braylon and Charbonnet news popped. Obviously, all three of them are three of the top 6 own plays as running backs today. But I thought it would level out to where, Isaac Grindo probably maybe a slight edge, but, roughly 20-ish% owned. But no, he's still popping it, and especially on the afternoon slate. So
looking at running backs, it's actually kind of funny. 6 running backs have 25% plus, and then the next running back is Kyle Juszczyk at 1.5%. So it's literally you playing these 6 guys, and that's it.
Right.
What game or receivers do you want to get to? We don't have a Buffalo player. We don't have. We have Seattle.
Well, what I was thinking was, did you want to throw Kyron back in, real quick?
Sure. Either that, or we can go double tight end and do something crazy.
What would be the second tight end? Dawson Knox. Yeah.
I do have 6,000 though. For
you got 6,000. So we can afford whatever we want. The awkward thing is there's not really anybody in the high 6K range. Mm-hmm. But if I had to pick a receiver for Seattle, I'd prefer JSN. And then you can basically afford whatever you want. But we still don't have a Buffalo receiver. Obviously, with JSN, we can't afford Khalil, but we can afford Amari Cooper if we want to do that route.
Yep, you could do that. Then you would get that stack. So you do go double to Seattle on both lines because you have to kind of naturally does it. It looks like.
So I guess so, but then organically you can afford. If price didn't matter, do you prefer Kyron or Puka?
Oh, that is Puka.
So then we can afford it. So put him in. I will say Puka is about 1.7 projected higher than Kyron today. Mm-hmm. Both, like I said, north of 30% owned. I bet you they'll both be high 30s
right
this slate. But I don't think that they'll be terribly owned in the main, actually. Despite that high ownership in the 3-gamer.
Dustin loves Cardinal builds.
Yeah,
I'm glad.
Definitely.
And then Tez Johnson might be the fastest guy in college football. Guess what? One of the dark horses. So what am I going to do? Him and Trey Harris, man.
Real quick for what it's worth, Puka Nacua in the main is showing 12% owned. Kyron is showing 8%. So guys, really solid difference in both slates.
Yeah. Guys, y'all have to tell me when I'm not sharing the right tab. Work with me here.
We weren't doing that the whole time?
No, I was doing it for some of it, but I when we switched over, apparently I wasn't sharing the right tab.
Interesting.
But yeah, so let me clear this out. Let's go over to main real quick and build a couple lines now that we know all of our players.
Yeah, as you pull that up, I'll just see if there's anything that's popped yet. Obviously, inactive list comes out in 20 minutes. Let's see. Like I said, Malik Neighbor is expected to be limited today, but he's pushing to go. Let's see.
Anything crazy?
I don't see anything yet.
George Pickens is
we know most of the news right now. We're really truly waiting on.
What about
just a couple things?
Raider running backs. Any news on them?
Let's see.
Because if Alexander Madison is out, we have a new option.
We are definitely getting over the field with Sincere McCormick if Alex Madison is out. But I can't type, so. Okay, Alex Madison. No news. Jacoby Myers expected to play. Alex Madison will not expected to play.
Okay,
that was as of 10 hours ago.
We will play some Sincere McCormick. It's going to be a lot of fun, especially now that
and we don't have to play a ton of them because there's so many options that right now And I'll do a refresh just to see if there's any kind of changes in
Updates,
ownership.
yeah.
Let's see. And of course, this is baked in because projections are having Madison in.
Right.
Um,
Right.
well, not anymore.
Oh.
Sincere McCormick. He is projected 2% today.
Okay.
So we can get 10x the field just playing him one time, and I might want to play him twice.
Yeah, I like
crazy,
him more
Mr.
than
Graterfield?
Braylon.
Yeah,
I like him more than
that's
Braylon.
very fair today. And on top of that, second highest total, better total, better game environment, and on top of that, our new friend picking the Raiders and Bucks, game to target. I like it a lot.
Yep. All right, so let's build a line. Who's your quarterback? Considering we already went through him.
I like Kirk's ownership.
I
So
love
I'm
Kirk.
gonna 4% on Kirk and a 2% Sincere. No, we can't get that crazy, right?
I don't know why we can't.
Oh,
but-
okay.
what is
Okay,
the
so-
stack though? Do you want Bijan or do you want to go with the
So
normal
here's
stack?
my question: if we play 5 lines today, are we only playing Kirk once?
No, we're playing a lot of Kirk. That's what I was saying.
So we're playing 2 Kirk lines.
I love Kirk today.
So we're gonna do one line with Drake and Bijan and one
Fine.
line with Drake and Mooney.
Okay.
Right.
Which one would you like to build now? Because we did build the Drake and
So
Bijan
many
earlier,
decisions.
so we could do the other on this one.
Well, let's see. Bijan is showing 12% owned. That's what I mentioned earlier. That I expected his ownership to go down. And then Drake London showing 14% is absolutely insane because we're gonna have him 4 times today out of 5 at least.
That's way too low.
And then that's too low. 80%.
No.
Oh, I see.
By
For the
them,
14.
yeah, that's crazy.
Mooney, for what it's worth, is 5%. So he's actually really big leverage. And on top of that, all the 5K receivers that we talked about, nobody's really getting to him. So
I think we actually have leverage if we did Bijan and Drake though, because I don't think anybody's going to stack that way either.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go? I'm going to put this guy in, but who else?
Bijan.
Okay.
Bijan.
Good answer. Good
Okay.
answer.
All right. And then we were saying this off screen when we were prepping for the show, but Zach Charbonnet versus Isaac Grindo, price doesn't matter. Ownership, I'm not going to tell you yet. Who do you prefer between the two?
Price doesn't matter?
Yeah. Because they're basically this. No, they're not basically the same, but yeah.
Yeah. Zach Charbonnet.
Zach Charbonnet? Okay.
I think I switched it.
So we talked. I did mention just a second ago how I was surprised Isaac Grindo, his ownership was that high. After that refresh, Zach Charbonnet is now the most popular cheap running back.
Wow.
He's the second highest or
Great.
most popular running back on the slate. So a lot of people agree with you. But we might be able to play both if we feel frisky enough to.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Which one? So which one do you
So we're
want?
going Charbonnet.
Charbonnet first. Okay.
And I want to see if we can get to Trey McBride as my singular.
Bring back.
Yes. I can't talk right.
You're fine.
Very sleepy.
Detroit defense.
I'm kind of feeling Chicago, but
They're
I hate how
so
chalky they're.
cheap.
Well, so on the on the main slate, actually, they're only 6% owned.
6?
So,
who's
I'll take that.
the most owned?
Tennessee.
Okay, I guess that makes
Tennessee,
sense.
New Orleans, and then Pittsburgh is third highest. They're the highest projected defense overall today, but third highest owned. Cleveland is fourth, and then Jacksonville's fifth. I don't understand Jacksonville.
I kind of understand the Pittsburgh one. I think that we might see 28 points out of Cleveland, but they're probably going to throw 2 pick sixes. So it's just how it goes.
You just opened up a wound that I thought healed.
Rubbing it in.
Nope.
Sorry. All right.
Okay.
Couple
So
wide
getting back to
receivers.
this, pretty even range of.
Minnesota player. That's who we're looking at.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to bring back
Okay.
with Justin. We're not doing an Atlanta Falcons build without Justin Jefferson today. He was our thumbnail on the main for good reason. We
Double
love
tight
him
end?
today.
Double tight end.
With who?
I don't know, but
Well,
I
we
need
have no
I need
Buffalo
money,
yet.
and that's what I was 39 or 35.
That opens up what 59.
Gives us some money.
Okay, try it.
Which one?
Uh,
I want.
probably Knox.
I guess
right?
I want Jacoby, so it would have to be Calcaterra.
Well, you can afford. Yeah, he's 56.
Oh, he's 56
Yeah.
on the. Okay, yeah, you're right. He's not 57 like everybody else.
No, yeah. it's-
Perfect. Look at that. That's awesome.
Look at that math.
Look at that. Look at
Yeah,
us.
And usually, like leaving salary on the table is okay and something that you really try to do. But we have not a lot of tournament stuff going on. But double tight end, going Bijan as a double with Kirk, is fun. And
One thing I dislike about this line, just talking about it holistically, is that everybody's kind of an away team, and that
Yeah.
I don't always like doing that. We're not playing 5 box running backs here. We're playing cheap running backs because they opened up the slate. So that's my only thing. I do believe that
I also
Isaac Rindo is a 5 box running back this week.
really, so if price doesn't matter, would you prefer Dawson over Curtis Samuel because they are the same price?
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, no, probably not. Honestly, what is the snap counts for Curtis Samuel?
Curtis
Did it
Samuel
go down again?
last week played 38%, but they also were up by 3 scores, and
Right.
because it was snowing all game, they were not playing a ton of 3 receiver sets.
Week before though.
Week before he played 60, and the week before that he played 89,
Okay.
and that was the game that he had the game winning or go ahead or game closing touchdown against the Chiefs.
Okay. Let's
Amari, for what it's worth, his first game back from injury, he played, or I'm sorry, his second game back from injury, he played roughly 50% of snaps. Again, very, very skewed because of
the score.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jalen Virgil played 26% for what it's worth. So if you were feeling froggy.
Well, I will say also, just for like to mention, a lot of tight end snaps they played a lot of tight end snaps last
Yes.
week, so that kind of is why
Exactly.
less receiver snaps. And they're not tight ends that actually catch the ball; they're just there to block. So, looking at this though, I think this line is really makes a lot of sense. Do we want to build another line? Does anybody want to? If you're in the chat, you can tell us if you want us to talk about a quarterback or build a line around a quarterback. We did 6 quarterbacks this week that we're gonna
2 up top,
went over.
a lot down low, and then a couple of 6K guys.
Yeah.
Obviously with Kyler and Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
Do you if because I'm interested in both game environments, obviously between Atlanta, Minnesota, and Seattle and Arizona. Do you prefer a Kyler double or Sam Darnold double today?
Kyler.
Kyler?
I think so.
And it's because the options are kind of more clear.
Yeah, I think that you know what you're doing. I think Sam Darnold, you could actually single stack with Justin and be fine, which is something that he has a little bit of rushing upside, I guess, but not like anything that'll wow you. But yeah, I think single stacking him is my way to go, actually.
Gotcha. Okay.
Let me
All right.
clear. Let's go. Anybody? Yeah, if anybody has any questions in the chat, we're answering all the, of course, start set questions for week 14. It's a big week. And then also, if you haven't liked the video, please go like the video. We appreciate it. It helps us out a lot just to get this content to other people.
Did Dusty have a did he give us an update on when the playoffs are going to be announced?
Dustin, when are the playoffs announced? I believe I thought they were going to be announced today at 11.
The AP poll came out, and actually, controversially, SMU is behind Alabama.
Okay.
But that's the AP poll. That is not anything to do with college football playoff.
They don't know.
So I bet you that's last. I remember it happening.
It might. Well, I don't remember. They have like a show for it.
Exactly.
But that would be an afternoon thing. So I need to figure out. I don't know when that show is.
I don't know why they would do it in the middle of the Sunday slate. So it's either going to be right now or tonight.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
Or another day. But I don't know why it wouldn't be today.
Well, it would be helpful if it was today, so I can get my freaking. I could start researching these guys, these teams. 36 bowl games will be happening Saturday, next Saturday. So we'll see a lot of games,
and it's really important because once again we are doing our first giveaway group, community contest with our bowl pick'em confidence pick'em, where basically you pick the game head to head and then you rank it and get extra points for ones you're more confident in and what have you.
11 a.m.
11 a.m.
Yeah, so we'll see it here in a minute.
Yeah, we'll actually stay. We'll hang out. We've been breaking before 11 but because of that being such a big deal, we'll wait until 11 and then we'll do a quick reaction to that before we get off and build our final lines. So that'll be about 40 minutes away.
Yeah, we have 13 people in here. Thanks to everybody for watching. We did just talk about Maine, so if you haven't seen the Maine, you can go back a little bit. We talk about early only, afternoon, and then Maine, but we do want to get to this awesome slate that's going to happen tonight, Sunday Night Football, between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Chargers. Since it is only 10:21 and we get to come out at 11, we can also do the Monday night slate if you want to.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I know
I haven't even looked at it, so I haven't either,
but
it'll
it's
be fun.
Good game environment. That's obviously the Bengals and the Cowboys game.
Yes.
But this game, obviously, a very, very fun one. the tough part is Lad McConkey is a true game time decision. Not only is he dealing with the shoulder, he is also dealing with the knee injury. It sounded like he was very pessimistic he was going to play to start the week, but to call him a true game time decision, my gut says he doesn't play.
Fair.
And that just opens up a lot of value at receiver if we do. Yeah, where do you want to start with this slate?
Well, I was going to say, let's start with who's the home team?
Kansas City.
Kansas City. Okay, let's start with the Chargers.
Okay.
Looking at them, Justin Herbert, of course, is going to be the most expensive guy. He's actually been really good, just not in the way of producing fantasy points because of the fact that they run a very pro-style offense. They run the ball a lot. They're going to throw it when they need to. And Justin Herbert actually, in the weeks of the year, off injury and stuff like that, there's no, but my thing's going crazy. But recently, he's actually had a few games where you can be like, okay, 25 points. I can get to that guy at 9,800. He's a guy we just have to kind of talk about.
Yeah, and his rushing upside's been there in recent weeks too. Obviously, a couple of rushing touchdowns in the last 4 weeks. But he really rose his floor over the last month or so. Obviously, last week he was a chalky quarterback that we kind of were off of. We ended up being even to the field. I think we played him in 1 out of the 5 lines, but he was by far the chalkiest quarterback, and that game did not pan out like anybody had hoped from a fantasy perspective. So either way, back up and running. The thing I really want to know, because do you agree with the sentiment that we can pretend that Lad's gonna not play while we're building?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can start with that.
This would be his first game missed, and with that being said, I'm really interested to see if Lad misses because he's been leading the team in snaps from the receiver spot all year. Who is going to get the beneficiary of those snaps? Is it Darius Davis, who's been a showdown winner before, Jalen Reagor, who for some reason is still on an NFL roster, or is it Quinn Johnson, who loves to drop the football, or is it Josh Palmer, who is yet to have his boom game that we've loved in years past?
At least like with some of these guys that we're talking about, I think they put Will Dissly on the field a lot. So I think that he probably plays every snap basically.
He really came back down to earth last week, having 1 target, 0 catches. But his price is just too cheap on this slate, being 4,800. He's almost cheaper than Noah Gray. So I don't really that why he's that low. Ownership's not really reflecting like people are going to be investing in him. It's showing 12%, but again, RotoWire, you got to take it with a grain of salt on showdowns because they're not the best. They just kind of show who's going to be popular, but they're not great at projecting because Matthew Wright is not going to be 80% owned. So
I also want to add, just talking about guys that have targets, Will Dissly, who we're looking at 4, 6, 6. Quentin Johnston had in recent weeks, he's had 4, 5, and 8. And then Josh Palmer 1, 8, and 4. So I kind of view this team, funny enough, I think I view this team like Cleveland.
Okay.
Right. So I don't think there's obviously Cleveland at a lower scale of like Jameis is going to throw the ball 40 times. I don't see, Justin throwing the ball 40 times, but you can kind of pick those guys. And then whoever your Elijah Moore is what you're trying to find is what we're talking about here. Is kind of going to be the guy that we get right. We have to get right.
And with everybody, pretending that Lad is out, every skill player is 9,000 and below. So just playing one of the cheap guys, like pretend that we can love Jalen Reagor for a second.
Cool.
Like 1,600, whatever you want if you play him. If you want to go that low, obviously kind of similar in the Detroit Green Bay game where we were like, you don't have to go there. Value's not great, but you can afford whatever you want if you do go that route.
Actually, a guy that I think is cheaper that is interesting, and Mr. Fisk here.
Tucker Fisk.
1 or 2 catches and 600 pays off, I think. So he's interesting. He has 3 catches on the year.
He's the highest projected guy of people that are projected to start.
Didn't even look at that. That's good to know.
He's projected 1.73 fantasy points, which that's what you need for somebody under 1,000.
Brandon just asked, does Josh Palmer pop off? I've been waiting.
Yeah.
He needs to, because come on, man. It's late.
A couple weeks ago, he had 4 end zone targets. And that was a game that I was like, this could be the boom game.
Didn't catch any.
He had the opportunity for the boom game, but they just didn't catch any. So is what it is. 5,400, pretty reasonable. I don't know actually who would be the most popular receiver for the Chargers should Lad not play. Obviously Quinn is the most expensive, but because of Palmer not having those boom games and Quentin has had those boom games, I bet you that he's going to be
Yeah.
higher owned.
But yeah, so this is the receiving core. You can actually add a bunch of players because we just do not know. It's basically here.
It is
Let
kind
me
of a
rephrase
bummer
that.
because I was hoping that
It's
there
those
was.
three,
I was hoping that there was yes,
and then
unless you wanted to go the
one guy
cheap guy.
that you got to figure
I
out.
was really hoping that there was going to be somebody minimum price at 200 that
That
was going
was
to be like, hey, I'm going to fall into 10 snaps and maybe get a catch.
Yeah.
But all of them are 1,000 above. Obviously, you just clicked on Darius Davis and Jalen Rager. They're both above 1,000 in the pool.
Yeah.
If Vlad's out, obviously Jalen Rager has been the highest snaps of the non-top 3 options. He's had about 30% of the snaps for the last 6 weeks. He's had opportunities. He just doesn't. He's not very good.
Unfortunately,
He was
also
paid before Justin Jefferson, by the way.
yes, he was. Yeah, I love that video.
Yeah.
By Minnesota. But also I was gonna say that the tight end situation for the Chargers, like you just have 3 guys that play a little bit. Will Dissly obviously is by far the best, but then Tucker Fisk and Stone Smart both playing, 20-ish snaps. So I don't know. Tucker Fisk is their fullback, so he's the one that's on the field the most. So that's why I pointed him out. But Stone Smart is only $200. He's the guy that's $200.
Right.
Talking about running backs for this team, I'm going to be fading them most likely, but
well, I'm in the one up top.
fair.
Gus Edwards, obviously, he was a little chalky last week as the falling into opportunity. It wasn't a great matchup, but we loved his like rushing attempt prop because I believe it was at 12 or 11
12 and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. And we were like, yeah, he's going to get that. And no, he wasn't even close. They combined, all running backs combined, after this is one of the biggest rushing teams in the entire NFL this year. They combined for less than that 12.
Crazy.
So very, very
absolutely
sad
insane.
that it ended up being that way. But it is what it is. 7,400 is just way, way, way too expensive for me. It is worth noting because we've been talking about Kamani Vidal all year. Hassan Haskins, former Michigan player that has been a special teams guy, and why he's been active and Kamani has been inactive, healthy scratch for a couple of weeks throughout the year in a couple stretches. Hassan fumbled on his first snap, and then really Kamani was like, okay, you're RB2. And it's not like he had a great, but 420.
But
the thing is, of the 3, between him, Gus Edwards, and Hassan, he's the only pass catcher of the 3. So if you're projecting them to play from behind, he's the only guy that's going to inherit touches. And him being $5,000 cheaper than Gus Edwards, I love that.
This is a tournament play. Absolutely, guys. So
yeah, nobody's going to play him.
Yeah.
Or not many people will. I bet you he'll be less than 15% on a showdown slate, which is very, very tournamenty. And that was probably my favorite cheap option that I looked at when I first looked at the slate this morning.
Absolutely. And then going over to the other side of the game, if I can get the mouse to scroll up. There it goes. KC, you kind of know exactly what you want to do with KC, except for now the muddy water of running back, because we don't know if Pacheco is, like last week, he was on a snap count. Is he going to be on that snap count? Is he back? Because if he's back at $8, you just so you know, you have to play this guy. But there's a question mark here for sure.
I will push back a little on, you say that you know what you want to do. Other than playing Travis Kelce, I don't know what the hell I want to do with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Really?
Because,
well, I meant I know where the ball's going. I know like those types of things.
The fact that there's 4 receivers playing between 45 and 59% of the snaps is pretty,
Justin
unique.
Watson scoring a touchdown last week.
Exactly.
Okay. I get what you're saying.
All that stuff. And then on top of that, Noah Gray having multiple 2-touchdown games recently. On top of that, Kareem Hunt and you tell me what's happening. The only thing I know is that I don't know if I could fade Mahomes because I'm playing this from a raw points perspective.
Right.
Slate, even though he's 10-8, options to get to, especially if Vlad is out. Value-wise,
think this is double quarterback lines.
Yeah, and I'm completely
most
fine with
likely
that.
Everywhere.
Yeah, it's really easy to get to doing that. Basically, I don't know if I can. My play that you can't avoid on this slate is Travis Kelce. He's had really strong games against the Chargers in recent years, and I believe their first game this year, that was like his first game.
I'll pull it. I got it right here.
Okay.
Oh, maybe that's the wrong.
You lie.
I'm trying. I'll put this on me.
It was week 4.
7 catches, 89 yards.
So that was his first game because he really started off the season slow with a 3-catch game, a 1-catch game, and then a 30-yard game, and then that was his first of many consecutive games where he kind of popped off. Yeah, he always
13
shows up
target.
against his divisional opponents, and yeah, he had a really strong target share in recent weeks. He just didn't really have the boom game over the
Right.
last couple, but
For
his
sure.
targets are there. He's the one clear option that's at least getting the snaps and the volume. Yeah, I can't avoid him today on this slate.
Brandon just asked, can Worthy be trusted? I'll be honest, Brandon, Worthy cannot be trusted ever because the volume isn't really comfortably there, and he's just a big play threat that doesn't have big plays. That's a problem for me. You are the big play threat, and your longest on the first grouping here, last 5 games, your longest play is 31 yards. I can't get behind that, especially because longest play of the year is 54. It was at least against the Chargers. I can make that narrative, but that doesn't mean anything to me necessarily because
I didn't expect him to be this bad this year. And
hey, he was our 10th receiver. That's all I'm saying.
No. Like
I know the
we
situation.
were much lower on him compared to everybody else, and that's coming from a Texas fan and somebody that's watched him a lot throughout his college
Freshman
life.
year, he was the best year.
Yeah, he didn't develop, and he just very limited. And you're just a bubble screen guy. And again, you can't be the fastest player of all time from a combine perspective and just not have big plays. Like the fact that you're not when you touch the ball, I'm not like nervous about you just taking it 80 yards is a problem to me. And
Agreed.
Is what it is, $7,000. But because of that, we're viewing the same or saying this. Everybody else is as well. So he's not having the target share. He's not having the snaps, all that stuff. Him being 7,000 is gross, but that means that a lot of people aren't going to play him. So he's tournament play. Just
I'd
flip a
rather,
coin,
but
essentially.
I'd rather play all of the pass catchers for the Chargers.
Right.
The problem with Xavier Worthy is everybody thought he was going to come in and be Tyreek Hill, but he's 165 pounds soaking wet.
Yep.
And that's just not, you can't play football at that weight. And Tyreek is a big guy. Like he's a running back when he catches the ball. Xavier Worthy catches the ball and he breaks like a toothpick.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit more where I wasn't comfortable with him coming out as much because he didn't run deep routes because Sark doesn't do that. He just runs screens the whole game.
So,
And it's absolutely all right. We already did that with Texas earlier, but it's just there's not an upside right now with him until he gets more consistent.
for what it's worth, his floor has been risen at least. He's had 3 straight games with 4 catches.
Yes.
And, obviously that's his best 3-game sample size of the year has been these recent 3 games.
Yes.
Sure. But he's still playing less than 60% of the snaps. He's going to have 5 to 7 targets. It just depends on if he scores, essentially. But at the same time, even if he scores, because he hasn't had the 100-yard games or even close to it, really.
Right.
I don't think even if he scores, he's like, oh, he's for sure optimal.
Right. I think I'd rather go to DeAndre Hopkins, Travis Kelce, Isaiah Pacheco. This range of Kansas City guys, everybody right above him is where I'd rather be.
Yeah. At least we know that there's not like a we did talk about Justin Watson scoring, but at least he's what's up?
George Pickens is inactive.
Really? That's a big deal.
Yeah. Pick the Browns. Ready to go.
Yeah. Pick the Browns.
Alexander Madison is inactive.
Officially.
Officially.
Sincere McCormick. We are 20x the field. That's fun.
Yeah, that's gonna be
all right. Yeah.
Ton of fun.
But yeah, cool. we'll get back to Semaine in a second. But let's I say let's start building because Chiefs wise, even though we talked about Justin Watson scoring and Noah Gray scoring recently, they're priced for that. So there's no like $1,000 could score like there has been in years past, so like a McCole Hardman's of the world. He's been playing less than 10% of the snaps every single week, essentially. But yeah, okay. I like it. Throw in both quarterbacks.
Yes,
filter back to.
We gotta get both of them in there.
Come on, mouse.
It's doing it. It's doing its due diligence.
So
gotta get some receivers for the Chargers.
So what I was interested in doing is going to Kamani and just being like, you're gonna catch 3 passes and you're also gonna have 5 carries.
Yeah,
and
5
you're
carries.
Gonna have 6 points and you're gonna make me happy. Then.
Ooh, but that makes me less happy.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to go like here, and then I'm going to be like, oh, well, guess who I get to pick up? Yeah.
Xavier Worthy. Just like we said. Honestly, I don't know if I'm going to play 3 lines on this contest. We usually have been playing three looks for showdowns of late, but I feel like I just kind of want to confidently play one line.
One line, yeah. I agree.
If I do that, I'm not playing Quentin Johnston. So, but at the same time,
but it doesn't change if
it
I go to
doesn't
Josh
really
Palmer.
exactly.
What if
So
I went to Will Disley though?
48.
I'm 100
No
short.
shot.
That's so tough.
Pickles,
And
bro.
we're not playing any. Well, Isaiah Pacheco.
We're basic.
We're not playing any kickers, and kickers are killing
Matthew
it this
Wright
year.
in his 2-game sample size, 3-game sample size with Kansas City. He's had a couple double-digit games, I believe. Cameron Dicker.
Yeah,
Dicker
killed
the
it.
kicker,
A couple.
man.
Shoot.
He's awesome.
Yeah, look at
I
this.
can't
13
believe
and a half.
he had
10.
to bounce around multiple teams until he found a spot because he's always been solid.
Yeah. Let me
Let's see.
pull Kamani.
No.
We're gonna do
Rager.
Darius. That's fine. I was gonna say Darius Davis.
I'd probably prefer Rager because I bet you he's
Fine.
going to inherit 60% of the snaps.
I like
but
right side though, because he actually runs the ball a bit. So maybe he was a touchdown on special teams.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, so Rager, 16.
Okay, now we can afford Hop and insert your Charger receiver.
I side with Quentin Johnston. Funny enough. But Josh Palmer could pop off. Ask Brandon.
Brandon, last guy in.
Brandon, tell me what to do.
And again, projections, it doesn't really mean much because Ladd is showing us playing, and we're pretending that, or not pretending, but we are anticipating that he's not. So we're building accordingly. Obviously, if he's playing,
we will probably be playing Ladd in some way.
We get there?
We'll probably play 3 max.
Yeah,
that's what'll get us there. Is we'll have to play a 3 max.
Basically, Ladd is just going to make us play and lose more money if if he ends up playing. So we'll see what happens. But
yeah, but I think that whoever Brandon picks, Quinn Johnston or Josh Palmer,
or if anybody else got input too.
Yeah, y'all have
obviously we're looking at an active list coming out. You had a big one actually. George Pickens was a surprise because we didn't anticipate. He was a late.
He was cute.
He was a late week injury ad, but it still sounded like he was going to play. We weren't going to play him from a DFS perspective. You know, he's starting in my lineup, but I don't even care anymore because I'm so sad that I'm not in the playoffs in our big league. But and on top of that, I'm actually interested in knowing this. What is Calvin Austin's price? Because he has had some really good end zone usage recently on the main slate. So he's probably, if he's like under 4,000, ideally, he is my 3,300.
Ooh, okay.
That opens up.
Calvin Austin is going to be a very interesting play today.
And on top of that, like price. For what it's worth, because I know Van Jefferson's a cardio receiver. Yeah. But let's see, Calvin Austin, Van Jefferson's 32. Mike Williams is 38, but I don't believe he still has not really been increasing his snaps. I'm pulling them up right now. But basically every receiver for Pittsburgh is under 4,000. And on top of that, Pat Freiermuth, who finally had a boom game last week.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Hopefully that opens up his floor. What is his price?
Grab all the Pittsburgh players real quick.
Let's see. Pat is 38. So every single pass catcher for the Steelers is under 4,000. I bet you all of them will be lower owned too.
Look at that.
Calvin's probably my preference, honestly, if I had to think about it.
My goodness. All right, there we go.
You have to go through all the healthy scratch and active running backs before you get to the running.
Yeah, before you get to Pittsburgh craziness now. I think my favorite is
Calvin Austin. For what it's worth, he scored against Cleveland this past game. That they played 3 for 78 in a score.
Hey,
2 straight games scoring touchdowns.
He's gonna get the targets. I'm feeling it. No, I'm with it.
And snap share wise, he actually only played 23% of the snaps last week. In a close game, which is pretty concerning. Van played 62. Mike played 25, but that was actually lower than the previous 2 games. Okay. Ben Skoranek had 33% of snaps. I remember him catching a deep pass, and it's just like out of nowhere, all of a sudden he's playing. He's probably minimum price if I had to guess.
I wonder when they'll update RotoWire too, because that's a big thing here.
No, it is,
because I think some people aren't going to know.
I'm happy about because I don't want to force 80% of Charbonnet, Garindo,
right?
And
I'm so happy to find someone cheap.
Honestly, fade Braylon. You with it?
I'm already on that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well,
I'd like sincere McCormick more. I said that earlier.
All right, hands in. It's gonna be interesting to see what we do with final ownership. But I'm finally happy because I'm happy because there was no value receivers that stuck out to me at all.
Right.
And now that Calvin Austin or any Pittsburgh receiver really is opened up, that helps your flexibility in not having to play a 3 running back build or
Exactly.
be able to afford an elite double tight end build like our friend built earlier. So yeah, fun stuff. Fun stuff.
Okay. So I'm gonna go to the other showdown. We're gonna do the Monday night showdown also because
Okay.
why not? This was our first look. It's not going to be our final. If you're not in our Discord and you want to be able to get all of our picks, just join our Discord. It's in the what's the thing called? Description. So you can go in there and
It's in
join our
that thing.
Discord, and we send all of our price picks, underdog, and DraftKings lines in there. So you can get them in there. I'm gonna stop this one. Let me go to the lobby and we'll grab the Monday Night Football slate because I do want to put that out. I actually haven't looked at this slate at all. I just want to kind of look at prices because I know a lot of football and it's Cincinnati, Dallas, and Dallas is one of the biggest teams in football, even if they're not playing well.
Yeah. And I think it's funny and interesting with, I was reading one of the doctors that we follow with like injury expertise. He was ranking the 3 cheap running backs, and he had the exact opposite order of what we had, which obviously we did Charbonnet, Garindo, and then Allen. He has that exactly flipped. But the ownership is on our side in terms of like opinions. This week I'm doing a refresh to see if there's any kind of ownership spikes.
Brandon did say, "I'm glad you're happy."
Oh, okay.
He wanted to let you know.
Well, I'm no longer happy because you didn't answer our question, sir. Once again, last guy in with that showdown build, we were looking at last guy in was between Quinn Johnson and Josh Palmer, and you had the final word. So basically, the pressure is on you. To make me happy.
Yeah, you make the $1 million on this. This is $1 million question, right?
This is a double up or win $1 million question, so no pressure.
So this slate is more expensive than the last slate we talked about. Jamar.
That's what happens when you're a Triple Crown.
Is absolutely
leader
different.
Palmer. Yeah.
Damn it. Shit. Woo. But talking about this slate, looking at this side of it, we'll put Jamar in there. We'll talk about T. Higgins, who's been actually PFF actually has T. Higgins as the higher graded player, which he's been really good.
He's been really good.
Really good. Gesicki. Actually, you probably have to put all the tight ends in for this team.
Yeah.
Hudson, Sample. I'm not putting Sample in there. We're just gonna stop there.
He's our Braylon Allen today.
Yeah. But Jamar Chase, 11-6, and absolutely deserving of it on a slate like this. He is going up against a beaten up secondary, also in Dallas, so that helps him even more. He has the most yards, most receptions, and does he have the most touchdowns? I don't think he does. Okay, so he is the Triple Crown currently,
which was our bold prediction this year, or his bold prediction. Mine was him getting to 20 touchdowns and being the first player to do that with 100 receptions and 1,500 yards. Which
he's close. He's
6 games left, 7 touchdowns.
He is not,
or 5 games, 7 touchdowns.
He is not the Triple Crown at the moment. Does not have the most receptions. Amon-Ra has the most receptions by.
Well, he just played.
He's up by 2. So
okay, so he's gonna pass it. That doesn't count.
No, I'm just saying.
Going into this week,
CeeDee Lamb is tied.
Shut up.
With Jamar.
It's Jamar.
Okay.
Prove. Support your bold prediction.
I do.
Okay.
He had 6 and 9 last week, so that's always good.
All
Jamar is always going to be a favorite play on any slate. T. Higgins though has been really good. Like I said, 9,600. He is the PFF graded higher player. He has had boom games also, as you can see, 148 yards, touchdown galore by both of these guys. He just had some injuries during this year, so he doesn't have the stats as high. But 18.8 fantasy points is awesome. Yeah. I'd love to double stack this game with Jamar and T, but I don't know that that's possible.
I want you, based on price baked in, rank Jamar Chase, Chase Brown, T. Higgins on how you want to prioritize
price baked in
these 3.
Let me go look.
Obviously, 96 for Chase, 98 for Chase Brown, 96 for T. Higgins, and 11.6 for Chase. Rank them 1, 2, 3. No pressure.
Chase. I would say, Chase Brown, 1.
Yeah.
T. Higgins, 2. Jamar Chase, 3.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. I
think the 2 wide receivers are so close.
Here's my thing. I want to play all 3 with Joe Burrow and then see if we got any money left.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I view this slate.
This is Dallas, though. We're playing Dallas. They suck against
They
everything.
suck.
They are bad against everything.
No, but they're honestly worse against the run.
Yes,
We've been
that's
waiting
why.
for Trayvon Diggs and Deron Bland. They've basically been trading injuries all season. I don't know if Trayvon is going to play. I'm actually looking that up now. But even if he does play, that doesn't mean he's truly a game time decision.
Okay.
So is Tyler Guyton for what it's worth, but that doesn't mean much because he's not very good at football.
Trey Hendrickson's gonna eat him alive.
Yep.
So
with
whatever.
that being said, yeah, that's kind of how I'm in a similar boat with you.
Cheap guys, though, is the real question.
Hunter Lipke.
Oh my goodness gracious!
$400, brother.
Oh, okay.
I want to actually look up his game log.
Right,
once you click on him, because he's $400. Last week he's
he's on the other team though.
Well, yes.
I was talking about this team.
Oh,
do we have a cheap guy for this team? Before
right
we go
now,
over,
the highest projected guy is or highest value guy is Jermaine Burton for them.
Okay,
he's $800.
3.23 is his.
That's pretty high projection, honestly. But he played 2 snaps last week, so I don't know why he's projected for 3 fantasy points.
Okay,
is what it is. He has not been very good this year. And then after that, it's Charlie Jones, who has been a healthy scratch.
Nobody.
And then Tanner Hudson.
Nobody got it.
Nice guy.
Tanner Hudson, though, $2,000 is pretty solid.
Pretty solid.
As you can see up here. He's had good weeks, especially when. 7 targets, 4 targets last week. That's pretty solid. So he's definitely one of my favorite values. And then let's go.
You called that one against Baltimore too when he had 16.
Hey,
like you were like, that's my favorite tournament play.
And he played well. Well, you just have to.
He was in the optimal line.
You had Christian Watson last week, so we do it every once in a while.
We still lost money because Jaden Reed.
Jaden,
bomb.
1 freaking target. All right, whatever. Going on though, we'll talk about there is one running back on this team, and it's Chase Brown. So let's just let's not even gloss over him. Let's talk about him real quick. He is going to get 15, 20 attempts, since targets, everything.
Since Zach Moss went down with an injury, he's played at least 80% of the snaps, and there's very few running backs that can say that, but also have the upside of 11 targets, and 7 targets, crazy. And on all that good stuff. Khalil Herbert, they signed or no, they traded for.
He's
conditional 7th round.
Way down here.
What it's worth, had the highest amount of snaps as a Bengal, but he had 6 snaps last week. So it's Chase Brown and Khalil Herbert, and basically Khalil Herbert. Excuse me. So he's my favorite by far today. Projection wise, he is projected for 17 points. Pretty freaking solid, man.
What is he the top? Who's projected
the highest projected
most
guy? Non Joe Burrow, because obviously Joe Burrow is the highest projected. It's Jamar, and then less than 2 points below that is Chase Brown.
Yeah, I think that's exactly where I'm at on it too. And then going over to the other side of the game, we'll talk about the main guys for this side, receiving wise.
Bums.
One, Brandon Cooks being back, I think hurts them more than helps them when you talk about fantasy wise.
Yeah. For what it's worth, Brandon Cooks not only caught a touchdown in his first game back, but he played way more than I thought he would. He played 40% of the snaps last week, so pretty solid.
7 targets.
And he did eat into Jalen Tolbert because he was hovering about 80 to 90%, the last 2 months of the season. But he still played 70%. So Dallas plays a lot of 3 receiver sets. And I bet you those are the 3 guys. And Kevontae Turpin's going to have his, 8 to 10
random
snaps. But they target him when he is in. So he's in the pool what is his price actually?
3,000.
Hell no, I'm not.
That's way too expensive. I was like, yeah, that's expensive. But I do think CeeDee Lamb is in play, just because he gets volume. Not last week though. I don't know what happened against the Giants. It's just weird games against divisional foes happen like that, and that's why CeeDee Lamb is currently not ahead of Jamar Chase, like we just talked about. But he did get 12 targets in 3 of the 4 games before that.
Yeah.
He's double-digit target
really
guy.
Banged up right now, so I'm actually. Well, I mean, because they won consecutive games and they're technically in the playoff race, that's probably why he hasn't been shut down. But I just feel like just pack it in. We'll see it. I bet you this game is going to be the turning point, because if they do indeed lose by a lot, even though from a tiebreaker perspective, because it's a non-conference game, it doesn't mean much. Being 5-8 when the 7 seed right now is 8-5.
Yeah.
You're not coming back.
Brendan did say Ferguson with a question mark. I will say he is in our player pool because he is healthy,
That's a
And
very solid price point.
that's exactly what I was
Obviously,
trying to
his
say.
one target game, he got concussed on his only target, and that was in the first quarter of said game. We've been playing a lot of Schoonmaker since, and it's been making us money. But when he is in, he's in, and concussion, he's not going to be limited at all because of that. 5,400 was pretty surprising to me, honestly.
Yeah, that's a solid price. And then Jalen Tolbert, like you talked about, 2,800 is an option. Going to the running back side of it, Rico Dowdle's $9,000, and I just don't think I can get there.
Can't get there today. He did very, very impressive 100 yards plus on Thanksgiving against them. He had his second highest snap share of the season at 70%.
Okay.
And with 53 snaps, Zeke has been trending down, but he had his lowest snap total of the season. But Corsley, is that even how I even phrase that word?
Inversely.
Yeah, inversely. There we go. Hunter Lipke played his most snaps since week 4. So that's why I like him so much, because he has pass catching upside, because he's their best pass blocker. If you look at the previous 4 games, he's had 4 targets, and he also has a couple carries
$400
recently. $400, yeah.
That's
how you afford.
It's just he's going to be on the field. You have to play guys like him, Tucker, Fisk, both fullbacks, but we don't get mad at Kyle Juszczyk when he catches the ball. You know, like let's try these guys out at those prices, especially if you want to get up to the Jamar Chases of the world. Let's make a line.
Okay, so who's your favorite captain? I think
Chase Brown.
Yes, we're on the same page of how Dallas is going to be done today. So,
gotta go Joe.
Put Joe, Chase, and Higgins in. See if we have any money left.
We have money. That's a lot of.
But you got to put Chase in though.
Oh,
yeah.
I see.
Yeah, it's not as much as you think.
It's still, I'm Hunter.
3,500.
Hunter.
No, come in. Come here, boy.
Come here, Hunter. Talk to me.
All right, 3,500.
Kirk Tolbert. I'm not against 5-1ing this game and playing Hudson, and hey, $1,500 left on the table.
Hey yo.
I'm also okay with which Dallas player is going to have
my favorite skill player for Dallas. Oh my gosh! Based on price is Jake Ferguson.
Okay, let's find a way to get him in.
All right, bye T Higgins.
That's what I was gonna say.
You're third, so you must leave the chat. All right, 54.
And I think you can play a kicker. And I think Tanner Hudson's my favorite cheap guy.
For what it's worth, Evan McPherson out for the year now. So Cade York is kicking for the first time for the season for the Bengals.
Yes.
Brandon Aubrey is the best kicker in football.
But it doesn't matter if he doesn't kick.
I remember him being in a minute. Well, he's still been kicking. He had.
Yeah. Well, recently, I guess they've been playing well. Yeah. I mean, there's 2-1. 2-2-1, 2-2. Those aren't helpful.
The problem is when there's 68-yard field goals and there's timeouts, and then they change their mind, they don't kick the field goal, and then you don't get the points for that.
And he would have made it anyways.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
I agree.
He's that guy.
Okay. I can go down. I really do want to play Hudson.
So then put Tanner Hudson.
But I could also play Lipke and
snaps.
We could play Lipke and we could play
For what it's worth, Tanner Hudson only played 12 snaps last week. So
that's interesting. Sample played more.
Sample played 63%.
Oh, that's not fun. All right, maybe not.
Cheaper.
No, not. I don't want to play Sample or Hudson. Really, then.
Well, click on Sample's game log.
It's awful. it's
2 targets.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
Hunter Lipke, he had a rushing attempt. That's
minus 4 yards.
He must have fallen on a fumble or something. I don't know how that would... All right. Yeah, let's play Hunter. And then
there's no one there.
So gross.
Yeah. He's the only guy between
I'm doing it.
88.
I don't want to hear it. You're just gonna get over it.
What? Oh, okay. No, you're saying it like it's a bad thing.
Damn it. It doesn't help me. I guess I could play Joe at the thing and then put Brandon Cooks in or something.
No.
There's a way, Cam.
I think we can just put in I don't know.
$1,800. 1,800 gives you any of those tight ends you want.
Well, it probably makes more sense to have one of the tight ends.
Yeah,
in there.
If I have the money.
Yeah.
Tanner Hudson, Jonathan Mingo.
Hell no.
How's he played?
Awful.
Jeez. He's
Fourth round
actually
pick.
awful. He's actually
He's
awful.
terrible.
Yeah, Tanner Hudson's going in our line. That's our first look,
Sure.
and
Fun.
I'm cool with it. I think we get the gist of who the players that we want are. They're all of the Cincinnati expensive players, and then trying to figure out a way to get maybe 2 Dallas players or 1 Dallas player.
I think I want to play 2 lines with this showdown, and
Yeah.
one with Lipke, Beware of the Field, and then one with non-Lipke, and but there or core 3, and then maybe T in another, but we'll kind of see. Again, inactive active list kind of came out for us, so a couple of inactives included Bucky Irving was expected to play. Malik Neighbors is in, but again, he was supposed to be on a pitch count, so naturally he's going to go for 200 yards.
Right.
Jacoby Myers is in. Kendrick Miller is back for what it's worth. Alvin Kamara is the most popular running back today, so hopefully Kendrick Miller just goes off and we don't have to feel bad about being underweight to the field to Kamara today. George Pickens was a surprise scratch. Alex Madison's out. Brees Hall is out. Raheem Mostert is out. So Devon Achane fired him away. And then Cedric Tillman, I mentioned, still out from a concussion.
Okay. I don't have anything else.
So
it's
yeah,
it's 11 o'clock.
Yeah, we're 2 minutes away from the official word of the.
Sorry, Brendan. I got it. Got it fixed.
What did Brendan say?
I had the screen. I picked the other screen and then flipped back to the other screen.
It's fine. Hey, at least our computer didn't shut down today.
Hey, yeah. Now it's user error.
Yeah,
even better. But yeah, let's see. So we have 2 minutes before those come out. Let me see. Actually,
yeah. Any kind of last minute start sit questions. Any kind of pricing. I know this is the final week of the regular season for season long fantasy. So obviously playoff implications very, very important this week. If that matters to you, if it still does, obviously it doesn't to me because apparently Denver can score 20 points on defense by giving up 500 yards and 4 passing touchdowns. But I'm not upset about it. I'm just upset.
Not upset about it at all, huh?
No.
Okay.
Are the Cardinals going to win by 30? That would be awesome. I'm going to play a lot of Arizona today. But hopefully they don't win by too much. So Zach Charbonnet isn't bad chalk.
So I wanted to.
Oh, that's what I wanted to do.
What?
I wanted to go update the ownership and talk about the highest owned guys from the slate. So the highest owned quarterback, you would not believe this, but it is Caleb Williams, apparently. Interesting. Okay. But every single quarterback's below.
What about his wide receivers though? Wondering, I know that's separate.
Everybody's under 10%.
That doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't.
But
it doesn't at all. But what it's worth, everybody's below 10%. So quarterback's pretty spread out today. Jalen Hurts second at 8.5%. Baker Mayfield third. Baker Mayfield. And then Kyler Murray, which we talked about, we like a lot. Both below 7%, but fourth and fifth, respectively.
Okay.
Running back wise, Alvin Kamara, 33%, the highest owned skill player on the entire slate.
Makes sense.
Zach Charbonnet, the highest owned value. Isaac Rindo, right after that. Saquon Barkley, guy we love today. And then Braylon Allen is fifth at 15% owned. Receiver wise, Juwan Jennings, highest owned receiver. I don't love that. But last time he was the chalkiest receiver, it did not work out in our favor. Jacoby Myers, second highest owned at 17%. Drake London, third highest owned, but only 14%.
Okay.
Mike Evans at 14 as well. And then Justin Jefferson under 14% owned, and he's going to be in every line. I'm calling it right now.
Man. Every line. All right.
Tight end wise, Brock Bowers, 17%. Really high ownership for somebody 6,500, but he's that good. So
he's been great.
Worth it. David Njoku, 10%. He is second. Trey McBride, third at 8.7%. TJ Hawkinson was the highest owned all week, and now he's down to 7.5%. And then Cade Otton, who has had a couple of back-to-back duds, 6.9% owned.
Okay.
Whoop, whoop. He is fifth.
Okay.
And then defense-wise,
got to be Chicago.
Doesn't really matter. No, actually, they're not. So
what?
Tennessee, highest owned, 14%. New Orleans, 14%. Pittsburgh, 12%. Cleveland,
there's
10.
No way Chicago's not top 5.
They're sixth, actually.
Oh my gosh!
But Jacksonville,
they're 2,400.
Jacksonville being double the field or double the ownership essentially of Chicago is pretty insane to me. But
yeah,
and they're higher projected. I don't get.
I'm very comfortable playing.
So maybe
every line with Chicago.
Every time we do that, it does not work.
But they're 2,400. It's a completely different.
Okay.
Like Cleveland and Pittsburgh. Like I'm more comfortable saying that like there's more injuries on San Francisco. And
Yeah,
Chicago's been
fair.
better than Cleveland. Jacksonville's at Tennessee. Okay.
Yeah,
I
I
get
don't
that
get
that
at
game
all
is just
why.
bad, but
Yeah.
whatever. Like, what is the total on that game? What are the totals on these games?
Total wise
Yeah,
for these games, let's see.
'cause the ones that matter here. Yeah,
So the I told you about Pittsburgh and Cleveland being only 42.
right.
Um, the lowest total on the entire slate today is New Orleans and the Giants at 41. Everything is between 47 and 41 points. So really a lot of even games today. Um, the Jacksonville, Tennessee. Oh, I'm sorry. Jacksonville and Tennessee is the lowest total at 40.
Right.
So I guess that kind of makes sense. Chicago and San Fran, 43 and a half.
Okay.
And then what was the last one you were asking about?
No, those were
Those
the
are the
both.
ones.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
sweet.
that was them because I wanted to know what the Tennessee Jacksonville one
Yeah,
was
yeah, it's 40.
versus Chicago San Francisco.
All right. I wish we could stream this, but they're officially coming out with the college football playoff. Obviously, that just started. So they're reacting,
I'm sure it'll
or they're
be
about to
a
start reacting
while.
right
Yeah.
now. Oh, dude, please don't take an hour to do this.
No, it's gonna be an hour.
No.
Well, yeah, it
shut.
won't be till 12. So we'll go watch it and we'll react to it somewhere else.
Okay, yeah,
We'll
react
react
in
to it on
Discord and
Discord and Twitter.
and also when Dusty and Emery have a. Are y'all doing a recap before our pick'em?
We're not. We're
No.
going to talk
Okay,
about
so
it.
no recap this week, but we are doing a bowl pick'em that we
Yeah.
are recording.
Let me stop
right?
sharing. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
we're
recording.
just going to
It's
record
not
it.
live stream. So
I'd love to live stream it,
yeah,
but I don't know.
we're
that we can.
recording on Wednesday this week.
Yes.
And will it come out Thursday?
It'll come out
Okay.
Thursday.
So it'll come out Thursday. Remember, as a reminder, this is our last live stream before the contest locks, but we are doing a bowl pick'em. We will post, or we've already posted the link in the Discord. But again, free prizes to the winners. Our first giveaway community contest. It's a confidence build of bowl pick'ems
Right.
on ESPN. Be a whole lot of fun. Please join if you want to have some fun for free.
Yeah, it's free, and we're going to give out prizes, so I don't see why not.
Yeah.
Also, Dustin is correct. If you would like to win money, you should follow him for
all of his mid-major
all of
picks.
his mid-major picks. He is pretty good at those. They have blowouts. We were just like
Yeah, wasn't
all
close.
kinds of wrong. But yes, so we appreciate y'all hanging out with us. And if you want our final picks, go in our Discord, and we will be, in there posting early only and regular in main in the next 30 minutes.
All right, let's do our final builds. But we will see y'all on the Discord, and we will see y'all next Sunday.
Yep. See y'all there. That was good. I don't think